device. What device are you trying to install? Storing bill. I don't know. So did you figure out what I was telling you about?
So yesterday they approved minutes. I didn't know I had very little. So, I brought them down a while ago. So the procedure after the minutes, I put them up and then hold them down.
Well, yeah, if they're approved, you get them off. What I would suggest is here or somewhere on it, notice that they were adopted in the date.
So you put it up on the top here?
I put it up here, in here. And so, the minutes for June 28, 2018 adopted, July 47, whatever.
And then after I print a copy.
And then you print a copy, take it down to the town clerk's office,
Okay.
and post it to the website.
So what I do?
Or whoever goes, or send them to whoever.
Yeah, but do I do that? So I don't, do I save a copy so I give to them that they don't give me anything back?
They don't give you anything back. If you want a copy, you save it. I don't save a hard copy, I just save what's on my
I
own server.
Okay, so,
Because I think that's all I need. So I have a copy of the minutes, I say are approved. But then I have hard copy, there's a clerk's office, and they stamp them in.
so I approved minutes last night.
So
Who wants to reduce them?
if they want to amend them, and that's the copy of the motion that I sent you.
Right.
Motion to amend, blah, 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 blah.
So, you're putting that in what they changed on the amend.
If they were changed at the meeting,
Changed after the meeting.
if you're at the meeting and they go, oh, but you need to take my name off or add my name on there, then it's a motion to approve as amended. Which is different. They're now approved. Next day, someone goes, oh my God, this is wrong. So at the next meeting, that's when a motion to amend.
Hi, John.
That's approved. The approved
Hey, Ray, how are you?
minutes.
How you doing? That's virus. And freezing cold as usual in here.
Corrupted virus.
I know. Fun, huh?
Yeah, we're using the name. But anyway,
Well, you know, I try so hard to do the right thing. And you be here, just use this. You might as well flail me right in public. If you're gonna do it behind my back, do it to me in public. Terry knows I respect her expertise.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Eleanor does the same thing.
Okay.
So it's a matter of trying to make sure you got them all.
Yeah.
So what helps is after you type in all of the changes you did. Take a look at it.
Yeah.
Make sure you got them all.
Right.
These come out good.
But that happened last time, I didn't know I had.
We were working on fences,
Oh, great.
and this is where
You should have
locations.
photographed them. You're gonna make a presentation anyway.
And
Yeah, but I'm putting it on
Dale's
paper.
Dale's
in
gonna
a-
do drawings, and I'll do a chart.
Wow, very cool.
the drawings aren't great. There's some stuff in like suburban, urban, rural. They're like on the fly as we're going, you know, so they're a little messy, obviously.
Hey, you know what I gotta find out?
Yeah.
Move it.
Have you guys heard that either the state or the federal building code has done away with the requirement for fences around pools?
I can't imagine that that would be true.
It is true.
It is?
That much is true. Now,
Done away with fences around what?
pools. The requirement for fences around pools is gone.
You know why?
But
It's
Go
under
ahead.
Trump. Under Trump. It's a Darwinism policy. So if you get in the ground, it's less money people have to pay for idiots. I'm
something.
I'm just.
now, so there's that.
Always there is.
There's that. But now I know that on Martha's Vineyard, for example, they have left it in place so as a town ordinance.
Okay.
So it's entirely possible that
We
they
don't-
could do that
I
here.
don't believe we have it as a town ordinance.
What?
No, what I'm saying is.
No, I'm saying like the vineyard, they do, but we don't.
What? For what?
Like somebody, you mentioned someone
Pool
left it in
fences.
as a town
Bases,
ordinance.
the
Correct.
state
I'm
and,
just
and
commenting.
federal
I don't
Did
think
you-
we have
Did you
it.
know about
regulations.
this?
I've heard about it, but I haven't had a
Said
chance
you
to
don't
look
have
into
to have
it,
one
and I'm
anymore.
learning to, not come.
But I
I
can
didn't.
imagine that's safe.
I haven't.
I'm asking the building inspector. to say.
I haven't looked into it at all. Yeah, because we used to be when we were actively doing
Great
communities.
grandson drowned to death
Our company had to be certified
in
pool operators,
California.
so I was off
He
on all
got out
that.
through the house.
But I've been
A little
just
kid?
purging
Yeah.
all that stuff in the
Oh.
data bank up here,
What
you
was
know,
he, 3 years old?
because it's like
Grade 5.
That's terrible.
it's great information because I think it could affect
Pool boy,
policy.
pool man found him.
But my
We're divorced from that.
or not.
You know,
If it's not visible, it's not visible.
so I don't know how insurance.
All right, I'm going
that-
back.
I can't imagine the state would do away
How
with
long is the
Massachusetts.
presentation?
Would be shocked.
No,
We're on the day.
Oh, because the
They-
International
Linda
Building
said she's
Code
not
is
coming.
is
for residential was adopted by Mass. They would have to put an amendment in.
Probably be.
Massachusetts would have to adopt an amendment to keep it.
right.
I get you.
I don't think that they have.
Just if you come at
Well,
3, let's say.
Let's just say that
Which one's big?
I heard this from a landscape architect who operates over on the Cape. They said that rule is gone, but any work that they've done over on the vineyard, they still have to adhere to it because when the federal dropped it, Martha's Vineyard as a, now whether Martha's Vineyard is a little different than us because they have 7 different towns or 6
Okay.
different
Bunch.
Oh.
municipalities.
We will.
Bye, thank you. Oh, here we are. It's already 1:01. Oh,
Hey, we got enough?
yeah, we do have enough, so we're gonna get going. Okay, I'm calling this Thursday's meeting of the Nantucket Historic District Commission to order. Present at today's meeting, and it is 1:01 on Thursday, June 28th. Ray Pohl's 59th birthday.
Wow.
Oh, did I just let that slip out?
My birthday is tomorrow.
No,
Remember,
come on.
remember last year we found that out.
Oh, that's fun.
How casual, but in honor of Ray's birthday, I just want to interject. Somebody emailed me a picture from Getty Images. You can look this up. Google Botticelli and Paul, Getty Images. And there's a picture of when Lisa and Ray first officially were coming to the
Oh
island to
no!
set up
Yeah,
shop.
I know that
It's
picture.
a picture of him in 1997. It's great. It's a great
Wearing
picture.
a madras jacket.
Yeah, I think you were. It was awesome.
It was terrible.
It was perfect.
Jackets are nice
That
back
was
then.
on the front page of the Boston Globe. Front
Evolution
page.
of an architect. We could take the same picture today.
You know what? We should do
You
that.
guys should
Let's do that.
I'll do it.
Standing out in front of the Compass Road. Sorry.
Sorry, I
Okay.
apologize for interjecting.
Total diversion. So it's Thursday, June 28th, at now 1:03. Present at today's meeting are John McLaughlin, Stephen Welch, Diane Coombs, Val Oliver, Abby
Yes,
Camp,
yes.
and myself, Ray Pohl.
Share it all in.
Wait, we're having a giggle fit. Can we?
Well, she threw her hands up and her pen hit Diane in the head.
Oh no!
Okay,
But
can we
there's
keep
no-
it
that
down
stuff.
over there?
Okay, so
No
a
blood,
couple
no
things
foul.
for the audience. You know what I'm about to say. Any recording of today's meeting or any portion of today's meeting, you should let us know in advance. Thank you. And any conversations that are not taking place at this table should happen out in the hall so that Terry can pick up what's being said at our table. Thank you, and may I have a,
So motion.
thank you. Can I have a vote on Diane's motion to approve today's agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public comment anywhere? Anybody? All right, fair enough. Moving right along, we're going to go to the unfinished new business of the other night. First up is 8 Winter Street. Anybody here for that? Come on up.
And make it,
I should be for your signature after I need to.
Thank you for the birthday.
Thank you.
oh, that's very nice, thank you.
Hi there.
Hi, just go.
Welcome.
Good.
Thank you.
These are examples of gray.
Oh, okay, I remember this. Oh, this isn't black.
Color is it? Is it not?
Oh,
This is
yellow.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember it was a pink.
Is this for the clapboard, or what?
Yes.
I don't know.
Great.
Yeah, this is changing the color from it should be the yellow color to the cliffside gray.
Okay.
Okay. Wow, okay, so now here's, we do have some comments from,
Oh, and they wanted to change the door as well to the Nantucket blue.
see that, yeah, it's all spelled out very clearly on the last page of that multi-page thing. Okay, so here's HSAB's comments on this. The gray is too white, prefer the yellow. Well, clearly, you don't prefer the yellow or you wouldn't be here. The gray is too light, they said that already. Oh, they said the gray is too white before. Almost white for the clapboard, needs to be darker, we prefer yellow. We're writing all this twice. No, let's see what, the house right next door is gray, so it's a little odd. Sample photos appear to be a darker gray.
And we prefer yellow.
No, right.
Well,
No,
I mean,
they didn't
if you
say
stay on the corner of the Joy and Winter, there are quite a few houses that are yellow. There's like 2 or 3 of them within that
Oh,
little.
yeah, there's no
so
shortage of
some-
this
Yeah,
yellow.
exactly, so maybe a little,
Okay, so,
Do you have a sample of it? I mean,
It's attached.
oh, I know, but do you?
well, a
can you- I
photo
can't really
of it is
tell from that.
attached.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can't tell if that's.
Yeah, printer colors and stuff come out different.
Don't we have a color board?
Yeah, we used to have, don't you have one, John?
Well,
Clough?
Cliffside, no, Cliffside Gray does not show up on that board, I don't think.
No.
Oh, it's not on, bench anymore.
It's not one of those ones that are on the little color thing, little color chart. Oh, sure,
Okay.
go ahead. Okay, John's gonna
This is the
comment.
only policy that was voted by this commission
That's right,
on colors.
right.
And the colors that were approved, white, light gray, cream, and yellow.
Well,
That's the old historic
the
district area.
HSAB, thank you, John, because the HSAB has confessed that this is a light gray.
Right?
Oh,
That looks white, so it actually covers 2 of the approved choices.
yeah, so,
So, hey.
God.
No, John, was that just informational, or do you believe that this is a reasonable request?
This light gray is acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, here.
Thank you.
I agree with you, John.
Okay, good.
Motion to approve it. Get it out of the way.
That was a
Say
birthday
it.
present for you.
Fantastic. Okay, so,
And the blue door?
Yes.
oh yeah,
that
so
goes nice
there's
with
also
gray.
Yeah.
a blue door being proposed, John.
Yeah.
you
Motion
look
to
at the-
approve this application.
And that's that Nantucket blue.
I love it.
I already made the motion, but go ahead. You
Oh, I'm
can-
sorry.
No,
I'm so
I
sorry. No,
want to
I
keep John's
didn't know.
motion on the
Yeah,
table.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, it don't matter.
Sure it does.
No,
She
it
made the
really
motion.
does matter, so,
She's trying to horn in on your
Yeah.
territory.
horny.
All those in favor of John's motion to approve is submitted.
Casual Thursday.
Aye.
Wow.
boom.
Pouring it in
Do I need
on a
anything
casual
official?
Thursday.
No, you're done. I mean, you'll get your
Wednesday.
approval from the town building.
We can't have a casual Thursday.
Thanks. How about 41 Low Beach Shed? Anybody?
Because you'll laugh.
Who?
41 Low Beach? No.
Oh, motion to hold for representation?
No one's here.
Oh, nobody's here?
Oh, I haven't got it yet.
We'll hold for representation. Okay, to keep things moving.
So moved.
Thank you, John. All those in favor of John's motion to hold for rep?
Aye.
Lemberg, anybody? No. Let's see, anybody come in and do it? Okay, I think we need to hold Lemberg's project too.
Coming in on a plane.
Yeah, can I have a motion?
Motion to hold.
Thank you. All those in
Rep.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now Val, you're up,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Ginger
Gotta
Lane.
find it.
Sharpen your senses, we're gonna get this one.
I'm glad to see everyone wearing their winter coats.
I know.
Well, it's the only waterproof thing I have. I didn't know if it is. So
Thank you.
How about Lindbergh?
We
He's not
held it.
here, so we're holding.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm representing this for the contractor.
Okay.
This cottage was designed by Sandcastle, and they had the porch intersect with the roof eave. The owner wanted the porch to drop down below the eave, so they built it the way the owner wanted it.
So this is as-built.
This is an as-built. And that is crux in a nutshell.
Now that I have the drawings open, I'm sorry, Val, can you just reiterate what you just said?
So I have it highlighted on the drawings that were approved.
Yeah,
Part.
Formally, the roof just spilled right into
Correct.
the porch.
oh, I
They
see, and now
built
we
the
have
porch
okay.
underneath the eave so the gutter could go all the way across.
I see that. Okay, does everybody get what the change is here?
Yep.
Rather than it being a broken back, quote unquote, it's got a little eave that runs across with a gutter, so that
Right.
they can have the water
Oh, that's a-
This is wider.
The fascia board
in the
behind it?
gutter.
Yeah.
Comments from the board?
Oh, here.
It's too bad it happened, but I don't really care.
I mean, this is certainly not the only house in Nantucket
Yeah.
that has that condition. Diane?
No, I mean, there it is.
I think it would have been approved that way too.
Probably.
Would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Val, you see that, what you really see is the end of that, right? I mean, you don't see it, it's from the west on the road, so it doesn't actually change the elevation view.
No.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter, I think it's appropriate, I was just curious.
You see, the only thing that changes is the front as well as wrapping down here. So-
Right, but from the road, you only see the side of it, so in an elevation, it's not a dramatic anything. Motion approved is submitted.
Any further discussion before I entertain the motion?
No.
No? Good. Okay. All those in favor of Stephen's motion to approve as submitted? Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Is it
you.
as-built?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Do we have to say that so they get fined?
Do you know what the status of that is, Kathy? No.
Does it say in the
It was,
application?
well,
It says Steve paid $50.
I
Oh.
paid $50. The house is, just getting finished, which is why John went and inspected, so
Oh, so it's
it's
in the,
still under
Open-
construction.
open,
Yeah.
so, yeah, we haven't
application.
been doing any fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, that
It's
is
not an
a,
as-built.
No, they're still talking.
I don't know.
If it hasn't been finished and they're going for their paper, then I guess we don't charge them.
that's correct.
But
That's
we
the-
do say that we would appreciate that they would come in advance to get these things approved.
Yeah. I'll tell them.
Okay.
Thank
That would be
you.
good.
That was the
Okay.
extent of the administration.
Did I take a vote on that? I believe I did.
On the fine thing or the?
No,
to the-
no, on
you know,
the
I think we also, yeah, I said aye when I was up there.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't believe there's anybody here for Carrie Hazelgrove again.
Motion to hold for
Oh, hang on.
representation.
You're not,
No, and
No.
I'm gonna suggest that Diane sorry, Nancy, go ahead of me with hers because I'm waiting for Randy to come.
Okay.
Okay.
She's right after.
All right, well, we're gonna take care of Hazel Grove first, so can I have a motion to hold
Motion
up?
to hold for representation.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
What's number 4?
We voted for John,
Yeah.
and now we just held number 5 for representation.
Hold it.
Yeah, and then they're gonna move these
Nancy.
two up in a moment, I think.
Okay? Now,
Motion to move Nancy.
10 and 11?
Yeah. Motion.
Motion to move 10 and 11
yeah. So,
to,
To be heard
to be
next.
6 and 7?
Yeah.
To be heard next.
we heard
Yeah.
next. Okay. All those in favor of
10 and 11?
10 and 11, those are the two that Nancy has, just because Carrie is waiting for,
Where is the plan?
oh, they're coming, they're coming. Hey, Nan, all those in favor of Abby's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so Nancy, you're up
Not
next.
week with me.
Oh, yeah? What's
We
gonna
got
happen?
one night a week, that's it. The rest of you, what you want.
Just one night a week?
Hi there.
Hello there, happy birthday.
Thursday, we don't meet
Thank
Thursday
you,
night.
thank you.
Oh, if you haven't been-
Stevie.
So you're not gonna go to the Wednesday meeting?
Shed, right on the road.
Our Wednesday
o'clock?
meetings? Yeah.
Yeah, over there.
Oh, okay. Well, you just said
Or
twice a
we
week.
could see.
That
So
looks
you
like
lied.
that.
I have that right.
Okay. You can lie if you want to. I'm not saying you can't.
Right there.
Nancy, this pond view, when it says prior location, does that mean that the building exists? Or does that mean it's
This is
prior
real-
approved?
It was prior approved
Yeah.
there. It is now an as-built.
In front yard.
Oh,
They did move it here. They also changed the size, so the original approval had to be modified.
is that the 3'6"? Oh, no, it's not.
They,
Sorry.
made it was 8.5 wide, and they made it 9 feet wide and 22 long, moving from 23.5, so
Whoa,
the size-
Sorry, so it was longer?
it was
Yeah,
longer and
atypical.
Okay.
thinner.
Put a gable on it.
But
Hey, so,
But it's basically the same shed. They moved it further down the road. I don't know if you have this particular,
further down the driveway.
down the driveway.
Closer
Hey,
to the
so,
road.
It's
this,
really not very visible though.
well, so you're gonna show us all these photographs?
Here,
Right?
there's
Is
one
that
coming
nine?
around.
That one.
That's from the road. This is a straight on.
Is this the shed right here?
Yes, that's the shed. This is a straight on of the shed.
Yeah, that's what they're showing us there.
This
So
is
you-
where
Which
you-
side faces the road, the
The
roof
windows.
side or the flat side?
The roof side.
The roof side
The flat side
faces
is into the property.
into the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the
Oh,
better
no.
side.
So like if
faces
this were a
the
better
road.
Oh, yeah, we
picture,
do.
I would be looking at roof
We do.
shingles rather than.
Well, there's
sidewalk.
one coming around that shows the
This-
windows are facing the street, so you really can't tell it's a half
Oh.
a shed.
No, I mean, it
Yeah.
looks like
Yeah.
half.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
these are blow-ups of the paper. Print copy
Mhm.
sheets.
Is this the shed or the house?
That's
That's
the
the
shed.
shed.
Shed. It's 16 feet tall?
One side and it drops down on the
Yeah.
other side. It's for his ocean-going, crew boats, rowboats.
But they're not 16 feet tall. like this.
Okay, who wants to go first on this one?
I will.
Okay,
I think it's fine.
okay, thank you. Diane, you ready?
Yeah, if it's unviewable from what the pictures show, and most of that vegetation stays there all year round, I guess it would be all right.
Okay. All right, it's not invisible, but it's
No, it's not
very limited
invisible.
And as it grays out, I think it will be more in harmony with what's already there in the trees.
Okay,
Yeah, well, I'm okay with it, but I'm a little bit tired of these as-builts happening and, you know, changing locations and the dimensions. I think it's just not, it's just, everybody else is conforming, so
Yeah.
why do we cut slack on these? I don't understand. I don't think it's fair. I'll go along with
It's a
it,
bitter
but I.
pill.
Is,
Yeah,
it's,
better pill.
do they get a charge on this one if it's already up and going and the
Actually, that's a good question.
place
Is there a
is
permit open
inspected?
on it?
I don't
No,
know.
it's an as-built.
Okay.
Move to state. So, okay, Abby, so there is a discussion on the table too about the as-built. John, what do you think?
Now I have a comment, yes. The way this is laid out, this is from Pondview Drive here, looking in. And over here, looking in is this way. This is where the shed's going.
Right.
It's a possibility it could be seen. I don't know how.
Oh,
to
You
view
can
it.
see it.
Yeah.
It's look at the pictures, John.
You
Right
can
there.
see a little bit of the shingles through there, and some, does anyone have those blow-ups?
They were going around. and-
Our John's.
Oh, here,
Yeah, it's an as-built, that's
Kathy.
what they're talking about.
here.
It's being moved from or is it being moved, or did it get moved?
It's already in place.
So it was moved.
Yeah.
John,
Those are blow-ups, John, showing you that
Look at
you
this.
can see the shingles through the shrubbery.
I'm just worried that the windows, the three windows,
Correct.
they're being visible there from, you can see them from the road.
You can see that one, yeah, whatever is seen there, you can see from the road.
Right.
well, we could,
But
you know,
it's-
we could do the perpetuity thing, where you have to keep the screening, the trees already exist there,
Yeah.
that you can't just.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
heavy vegetation in that particular.
Go back.
Right, but that, it should be capped, because the only
Right.
reason we would okay it is because of the screening, right?
Okay, thanks. John, have you finished? You're okay.
Where is north on this?
John is, north is the
Question,
front road.
It's a high wall right there with nothing on it.
Well, so the high wall faces back into the property. The roof side faces out to,
Right, that's got the three windows.
correct.
Right, that's what I find from the photo is possibly visible.
Oh, it's visible.
Yes, you
Yeah.
can see that.
They'll change the window, type of window instead of a solid glass. You know,
Yeah,
it's just,
that's a good point.
it's finally not an.
Was the
approvable
original,
window.
did the original have panes?
No, it was the
It was
exact
like-
same thing,
But it was further back on the property.
a little bit further
Okay,
back.
all right. What's lacking, there's no,
I mean,
There's
do you
no-
think we could go back to the screening, because I think.
okay,
Keep going, John.
there's no A window,
On the schedule.
right.
So that,
I'm not voting.
It's a minor thing, but others that have asked for those type of windows, solid glass, we told them no, put buttons in them,
No,
As long as they have to keep.
thank you, John.
yes.
Okay. What's the pleasure of this board?
I make a suggestion
Sure, of
that
course.
that if it's approved as built, because
Yes.
it is as built, and that the screening remain in perpetuity, and as far as the suggestion of adding more, I don't think you can add any more in that particular lot. It is full of scrub oak trees, pine trees, all sorts of stuff. It's one of the heaviest vegetated lots. And what you are seeing are just two windows. You can't really tell whether it's a shed window or a house window. And windows per se shouldn't be invisible.
Right.
So I would approve with vegetation remaining in perpetuity and an as-built time.
Okay. So all existing vegetation to remain.
Yeah.
Okay. In perpetuity. Well, that kind of sounds like a motion to me.
Yes.
So will that be your motion?
Yeah, that would be.
Okay, so Diana's made a motion to approve this levying the as-built fee, and that all existing vegetation between the shed and the road remain in perpetuity. That is the motion. All those in favor?
I'm gonna recuse.
And recuse? Okay, and where are you, John? Opposed?
If they're
Okay.
visible, then I think they are, and the
Uh,
photo proves it,
Yeah,
you shouldn't be doing it.
yeah. Well, the vegetation screens a lot of it, so,
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't.
okay. All right, so motion does carry. 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. I believe that was it, right, Abby? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Next up, 13 Fayette Street. Thank you.
Is this the?
This is a little shed, it's going in a little tiny spot. It's in the area where the funeral home used to be,
Mm-hmm.
and where they split that up.
Yep.
So there's an existing house with approximately just enough room for a 6x8 shed in the backyard. And that's what they're looking to approve. There's very little visibility, the house takes up everything. There is a little pathway beside the house, and that would be somewhat visible, but very limited.
Oh, I see. So, with respect to Fayette Street, it's behind the house.
Yes. And off the common driveway that they made for those houses that they put in there.
But what about from the park, I mean,
Yeah.
it's cute anyway, but what about the parking lot's right there,
That's the town park.
backed up to it,
Isn't it?
yeah.
Well, not right here.
No,
there's-
no, no,
there's-
right here.
Oh, you're talking about
If you look
this
at,
side?
if you look at this,
Yeah,
there's Fayette, there's a house
yeah.
here that doesn't really show. The
So
little
it
shed is
faces
here,
north.
and then all this stuff back here is all the town parking lot.
But you,
No,
I have to
Fayette's, where's Union?
recuse myself,
yes,
but I wish to speak at
That's fine.
8.
yep,
Okay.
that's your right.
I just need some more information
Okay,
before I make.
so, look at this, compare it to here, okay?
Where's Union?
This is Fayette, Union is up here, okay?
Like here?
Well, not, this is another lot, that's this. This is where the old funeral home is, right here.
Oh, okay.
And then there's another building right here. See, so this this thing right here is the green.
This weird parking.
So the house, the new house is there, and the shed is here,
And I don't see
okay?
where.
So it's basically, but there's this building that's in the way, and obviously the old funeral home is in the way, as seen from Union Street.
Okay, so looking down this driveway here,
Looking down.
where's that driveway?
This
Where's this
Driveway,
Oh, you can do that, sorry.
Okay.
So is this?
so the visibility of this would, I
Be
mean,
from
really, the biggest,
Fayette.
sorta, kinda.
This is the visibility, is
Yeah.
this little pathway, which is a walkway,
Right.
and this whole area is hedged with
But-
privet.
Nancy, you would agree that this is probably gonna be visible from the parking lot, the town parking lot?
It's all privet at the moment, it's screened.
Okay, but, so now we know about the visibility. Diane, you wanna go first?
Okay, my concern is they have a very weird parking and turning around. When you go in on Fayette Street,
Yeah. Oh, right.
you have to go straight in,
Mm-hmm.
at which time when you come to the other side of Ricky's house, you
Correct.
back up behind that house at 13, and then you come out again and head back out Bow first onto Fayette Street. That's the way the parking was made by
Right.
the HDC. I don't know, it doesn't show any of that, so I don't know whether it shows the
I
cobblestone.
think that's the parking,
Yeah.
and this is the turnaround, you come in,
Yeah.
And you have to
you
go,
back
you have,
up, you back up right to here.
no, you come this way, and you back behind this house, and then you come back out again onto
Oh.
Fayette Street. That's, I just don't know what that is. I know that they have, having had my car damaged several times because the people who own Ricky's house back straight out.
No kidding.
And that happens to be where I
Where
had to
you
move
park,
my
yeah.
handicap
Right.
parking and all the rest of the stuff.
I remember that.
So they could get out. I just was concerned. The shed is not such a problem. It's not a bad looking shed. The shed is very small. But space back there is at a premium. That's
Yeah,
all.
they really packed a lot of program
Now,
into this.
Diane, his shed is gonna be behind the stone patio,
Yeah.
and he does have a big hedge at the end of that, pea stone piece. He actually parks in there, it seems, because his Jeep was there. So basically, the shed is kind of off, out of the way of that parking area.
That pea stone, he parks on that, right?
Yes,
See, that's one of the problems. But not, the shed
the shed would go behind,
looks like it's behind and not a problem. I just
yeah.
needed to make
It's
sure.
on the little piece of grass that he has, which is minuscule.
Yeah.
Does HSAB have anything to say?
Only one comment from HSAB, and that is that the drawing indicates that it's a 6 and 12 roof pitch, but clearly it's a 12 and 12 roof pitch. It's just needs to be, I'm assuming you're doing 12 over 12,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so it's not a 6 over 12. Do you see that little thing on the drawings there? That should be 12 over 12. Okay. And what are the colors?
The colors are Quaker gray trim, Quaker gray sash, wood roof, Quaker gray doors.
Thanks.
He would
Thanks,
like
Val.
actually to change the double door to cedar, just making it natural.
Well, we love that.
That's cool.
Okay.
I'm okay with this as long as it keeps to the dimensions it says. It says 6 feet by 8 feet, which
That's
is
it.
pretty small.
You
Yeah.
can't do any bigger in there.
I just want to make sure, because it's pretty tiny.
Okay. How about you, Val?
I'm good.
How about you, Diane? Oh, not Diane. How about you, Steve?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. John?
Okay?
You okay? No motion?
Motion to approve
All right.
with, I corrected the application.
Okay, very
Okay,
good. All
thank
those
you.
in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Nancy.
all very much.
Okay,
You
so
could
now
call
we're
it
gonna
changes.
Yeah.
return to 53 Meadowview. Okay, folks. Come on up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll remind him not to go later. Gotta keep him
Thank you.
We gotta keep him on his toes, right?
Is it really your birthday today? Your birthday? Oh, wow. Happy
I think the rain
birthday.
is blowing out.
I won't say what I usually say.
And it's
to people
Diane's
who are older
birthday
than me.
tomorrow.
And
All
Carrie, if you
right.
can guess everyone's age correctly, you get approved. Without having to have a review.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm not even going to attempt that.
Yeah. The Amherst,
Not
right?
even going to
I think everybody
attempt
looks
it.
about 30 to me.
Right? Oh, Charmer wins.
That should get something.
Okay, so, what are we reviewing first? A demo, move off?
Demo move up.
Okay, you wanna just tell us a little bit about the house?
Yeah, this is on Meadowview.
Yeah.
Sort of near the Somerset connection that's kind of back there, do you know? So it's not part of the sort of more populous Meadowview neighborhood.
Okay.
This house is set back down a long driveway, not dissimilar to what I showed you the other night.
Oh,
You can
yeah,
see it on the
right,
site
right.
map. So it's sort of a landlocked property.
Yeah.
And it's very grown, so you don't see this house. But it's basically a 1.5 story, there's a little 1.5 story piece and then a garage, so, and it's not a very useful building.
Do we
I
have
think.
photos of it?
They're
There
attached.
are
I mean,
some,
there
are some there.
the thing that we're sort of, oh, okay.
There's a
I-
garage
I
that was
think
converted.
When it comes down to the demo move off, the thing that we're focused in on more than anything else is its age. And what I'm looking at right now is not Marvin, Anderson windows is like old style Anderson windows where there was no casing on them. I can't imagine that
The
this.
plan says 1985.
Yeah, I was
That
gonna
sounds
say
about right
85.
to me.
Yeah,
Was
Okay,
this the McNamara that was the head of the hospital?
I don't know. It's just pretty small and it had a garage that got
Yeah.
converted to a bedroom.
does anyone have any issues with this house being demolished or moved off the site?
No?
No, we're all okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. You okay with
I
that,
don't
John?
feel it's significant.
Don't think it's
No,
significant.
definitely not.
I would agree with that. Okay, so can I have a motion to get this part of the
Motion to
equation out of
approve the demo of 53 Meadowview,
Or
demo
the way?
or move.
Demo move off, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay, all those in favor of Diane's motion?
Aye.
Okay, now we're gonna see the new dwelling. And now the whole
dwelling.
issue of the visibility,
Right back there.
might come into.
It's back there. I mean, if you drove by, you would see nothing. You'd see the driveway.
Oh, sorry. I was pulling up a map. Yeah, so it's this house in the back.
Yes. It's that whole western side there. Part of the invisibility factor, or I don't want to say invisible, but is there's a forest on the west side that sort of wraps around like a sea, and most of it's on our property, and we would retain as much of it as possible. The other thing is from Wamasquid on the site plan, we're about the same distance in as we are on the driveway side, so it's gonna be a stretch to see. You'd probably see a little bit of the roof, maybe.
This,
What about if you come all
The
the way
main-
down Austin Farm,
Yes.
into the name of it right there, above, Meadowview is down here, and this is,
I think he might have it right there.
Here.
yes, but I don't have the name of the street to find.
Marshall?
this is the driveway.
Austin Farm is way over
Yeah,
here.
so it's.
I don't mean Austin, what's that?
Wamasquid.
Wamasquid.
Yes, and that's
Can
what I
you
was,
see from Wamasquid?
that's what I was just saying. There's a forest on that end, and it sort of wraps the end of our property. And that's about 170 feet away, Wamasquid.
Yeah.
And our driveway from Meadowview is also 170, so that's sort of how I gauge the distance, is by standing at the end of the driveway, looking in, and then going to Wamasquid and imagining the same distance.
Right.
So you can see the depth of the forest on that,
See the forest for the tree.
yeah, on that overview photo.
That was the demo.
But we are tall enough where you might see a little bit of the roof, but I think that's it. And
So,
our
can you
main
just,
mass,
if that's the case, can you tell us a little bit about the colors and the roof and all that?
yep. The roof is going to be dual gray,
Okay.
the dark gray, with white trim.
Okay.
Everything else is sort of typical, white cedar shingles. The main mass, meaning the two-story mass, is about 50 feet wide, and the rest of it's one story, and then the garage is 1.5. So the piece that is, the two-story piece is relatively minimal.
You didn't really mean that the main mass is 50 feet wide. It appears to be like less than half of that.
The longest is 50, I believe. I wrote it down somewhere.
But you're not talking
Oh,
about
I'm
the
sorry,
two-
no. 40 is the longest. 40 is the longest length of the main high mass, and 26 is the width of the two-story mass. The building itself continues on, but most of it's one story.
Yeah, right.
And then the garage is 30 feet long, and that's 1.5 stories.
Okay.
So we're really up and down additive all
now,
over.
okay, so that's interesting. The garage that we're looking at on this sheet, is that a separate building?
It's attached.
Attached.
It's attached by that low porch
And you've
roof,
got
so
a
it,
couple of applications before.
yeah, we do. We have a barn that's
Oh,
coming up.
barn, okay.
The garage is attached by a porch roof and a mudroom, so it appears detached, kind of, until you're standing in a
Okay.
certain place.
All right, thank you. Okay, anybody ready to start? You ready to start, John?
Oh, which way is north on this? Then there was-
Straight up.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have any comments, and I have one that bothers me. I've always said the Anderson above the first floor is possibly visible.
And
what?
They're saying that the roof would
On
probably.
my theory, you know? And judging by the north elevation, the G windows, I think it's very inappropriate.
Those are the transoms, right, John?
Right, yes, yeah. I think
Oh, in that dormer.
If they don't match anything else in the house, there's some other way to work around it.
Okay.
Beyond that, and then there's no, G window with
Yeah,
one.
and I could
and
maybe drop that down and try to get
Yes. Pool lights. These are double hung?
The F
Four
window is
lights.
looks
Yeah.
like a fixed casement to me.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
is that in the gable? Yes, that's
Right
just a
here.
fixed casement because it's up high, so it's not
Huh?
operable.
It's not double hung.
No,
All right, what is it?
it's fixed.
Fixed. Okay, it doesn't say that, that's what I'm saying.
Sorry.
You know,
We
how
can
I
make a
do
note of that,
windows, you
John.
know?
Setting
Okay.
It actually says it's double hung, so it could be double hung if it wants to be, but
It's-
it's high up, so I'm imagining it's not gonna be used open very often.
G, yeah. Okay, that's my comment
Okay.
on the, what was the height of it?
28 feet, I think?
28.8, I believe.
Exactly
At its
right.
highest
28.
speed.
27.8, yeah.
Well,
That's
28
from
actually.
yeah,
It's
from grade.
from the grade to
Yeah,
the
but
ridge
that's
is
from the
28.
first
I was
floor.
questioning some kind of way working around those windows and two windows.
Got it.
I have, the rest of it, I think, fit right in the neighborhood.
Thank you,
Thank you.
John. Diane?
It's 104 feet long on the north and south elevation. I think maybe perhaps for better view that's long, if you see it coming down Meadowview and looking up the driveway, it's going to perhaps extend down the driveway somewhat. It's just that's a long.
I would ask you to drive by the driveway
I will.
because
I have for a
it's
long
really
time.
absolutely not visible where it's sitting.
Okay.
You can take the site plan of our proposed buildings and the existing building and look down the driveway and you can't see the existing building. And we're setting ourselves in even further from that.
Okay, looking
and
at your site plan, I can see where,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I will drive by to see
Do.
what. The other thing was, it's just an idea, the center mass is what's going to be the front door?
When you drive down the driveway, the first thing you see is the front door. You'll see
Okay.
the garage and the front door is
And
facing that. So
That
it's
way, okay.
yeah.
I
On the east elevation.
don't know, I would like to see in the main mass, those windows separated.
You're on the east elevation,
I'm
right?
on now the north elevation.
Oh, north elevation.
North elevation.
Okay.
You have the getting on the first floor and on the second floor, and I don't know,
Oh, that's the south.
south
Oh,
elevation,
yeah,
sorry.
the triple
Yeah.
there, yeah.
I would perhaps like to see the main mass come over and fill in that gap so that it had more presence than the secondary mass. I appreciate the one-story masses. I don't know whether that would work or not, but I think it would give you a main mass being the highest one, more present.
It would make it more normal, so to speak, because we are cutting it.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure.
I don't know that you can do it,
How
because
would
I
you
don't
do
know
it?
what the
Why would
interior
you do
is,
it?
it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, it's space that is difficult to access because of where the stairs are.
Diane, could we revisit that after you drive by?
Yeah,
Because I think so much of this is invisible.
I will definitely do it before Tuesday. We'll go out and see the views on the weekend.
And from Wamasquid as well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You'll, especially if you have the map with you.
That's it. I just, for, to begin with.
Thank you. Val,
I got nothing.
okay.
I appreciate all the additive massing. I wish everybody was more conscientious of that. And I think that seeing that one gable is probably not gonna even be seen because there's a barn in the way.
Which gable do you,
The one Diane was just
the
talking
one with the
about.
triple window on the second floor?
Yeah.
On the north?
They're also putting a barn behind this building, so, I would have motioned to approve today, but to be fair, I'll let Diane
So views.
view.
Well, and John had made a couple comments
Yeah.
about the windows, so thank you. Abby?
Yeah, I think the masses are competing. I think the main mass does not seem like a main mass. It seems to, with the big repetition going on the far right, I think it's sort of demanding, and I'd like to see that somehow diminished to be sort of secondary to the main massing. I know you're going to say that we can't see it, but just personally, it just looks lopsided to me, sort of towards the right. Just looks with all that sort of repetition and height and just seems. Actually, I do like the added massing, looking at it from the east and west, but I think the front on it has a rather large impact having that right side being so demanding.
You mean the garage portion?
Yeah, this part.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
To what extent does the visibility come into play on whether we leave it or we?
Well, we're only,
Ask
this
everybody to go
board is
by.
only supposed to vote on things that are visible from publicly traveled way.
So maybe everyone should go by and see it.
Well, so I think that should be part of whatever motion we make. So there have been a few comments. Hang on one second. Abby, were you finished? Okay. So there have been a few comments. I really have nothing to add. I do think, one thing I will add is, in terms of the length of the building, right at the moment, half of that length is single story.
Right.
Right, oh, I
Okay.
think
So
the single stories are
additive
good.
massing stuff, really
Can
good.
I just add one thing?
Yeah,
I just
go ahead,
thought-
Diane.
Is the meeting rails
Oh, I didn't
on
notice.
that.
Oh, on the
south-
garage.
South elevation,
Yeah, that's the garage portion.
don't hook
Yeah.
up.
You are correct.
Let's drop down a bit.
Okay, so I think that whoever makes a motion should include in the motion just to view, to check the visibility. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to hold for revisions and review.
Very good. Because I could change something.
Yeah, I don't think I'll do any changes until the next time.
Yeah.
I
Fair
would
enough.
concur.
All right, that's good.
Okay.
All those in favor of Diane's motion?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay,
And now
more.
we have, yep.
More.
Hey, you know what, guys? I mean, we can probably give you a couple comments. How tall is this thing?
Ah, to check. 24?
26.4.
Okay, I mean, if we're viewing for a building that's
Yeah.
28 and change high, maybe we should just sort of include this as
Part of it.
part of the
You want it
viewing.
tracked?
I mean,
If you
clearly,
would bring my proposed site plan that show the barn and the house when you drive by, and just be cognizant of where they are located, because when you look down the driveway, you'll just, everything is to the right when you're looking down the driveway. All our buildings are to the right.
Long
So,
driveway
yeah.
off of Meadowview
Yeah.
Road
So,
with a house in front of it.
Yeah.
That one?
yeah, so, it would help to have the site plan and locus with you.
That's a good site plan right there.
Well, I
'cause-
didn't
yeah.
notice,
That's the existing.
that's the existing house.
So when you go
But
to
your new
see-
house is going like here, right?
Right here.
Yeah, you can see,
Okay, so there is a
Where-
site plan that has both.
so, yeah,
Got it, got it.
one of the applications has everything on it.
So, do we want to include this in the view just so we don't do it
Yeah,
twice?
because in all likelihood, we can pass it the way it is. We can-
Assuming that the visibility is what it's been
Yeah.
described, we might be able to do that, yes. So, John, we're gonna, just view this,
And I'd hold the
Check the
pool for the
visibility.
same reason.
Yeah,
yeah.
Do we need it?
We're going to view,
Do it, okay, thank you.
view the site, check the visibility,
Right.
check the vegetation.
take a nice
Just so we
little
don't have to
drive.
review it twice.
Okay.
So I would motion to hold the barn and the pool to track as well, based on visibility
Great,
of our view.
all right, perfect, thank you, Val. All those in favor of Val's motion?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time.
So now we're considered old business next week, is
You
that right?
are,
Work it out.
hey, do we have a meeting next week?
No, the next session.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, 13 Mass Ave.
That was actually left on.
Happy
in our-
birthday, everybody, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
Is it already done?
That was on consent if John just forgot to.
Okay.
Which
Okay,
that?
so
Fushi.
13 Mass Ave was on consent?
Yeah.
Okay, so, hey, John, 13 Mass Ave was on consent.
Tuesday.
So
Okay.
they just, you can cross that off because
Okay.
it showed up in two spots. It wasn't supposed to. Hello,
Thank
Matt.
you.
How's it going?
Welcome. How you doing?
How you doing? Hope myself
Okay,
all right.
so then we're at 34 Walsh now.
Okay.
So you're just looking for a railing change?
Yes, so, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this, you had already approved the railing detail. You liked the crossbuck detail, but we had to come up with a version of it that met the building code, and so this is what we came up with. So I think it's just a railing detail. Yeah, it's tight, but
Is that why they did that in the olden days?
well, I
No.
think, yeah, I mean, most of the times you see it, it's basically just a crossbuck, and it doesn't
Right.
comply. If you have like a first floor deck that's less, the finished deck elevation is less than 30 inches, I believe, from the grade, you don't need it to comply with the guardrail requirements, and so that's why that's just that simple X is there. This version has to, you can't actually put a sphere larger than 4 inches in diameter through it. So we play around with the
I
width.
do too.
It's very decorative.
Very good.
Totally.
Also, I'll remind everyone, this site is kind of landlocked. It's, you go down a drive and there's another house like right in front of it on Wall.
Right. It's two houses back there.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'm gonna hold that motion just to make sure there isn't any further comment. Okay, Diane?
Okay.
Question,
Yeah,
on this crossbuck,
yeah.
why does it state meet the building code requirements? Why?
Because-
I haven't seen one of these.
If you have just a normal crossbuck like that, it doesn't meet the code because the code now, they take a 4-inch diameter ball, and if they can fit it anywhere through there, it doesn't meet the code. So what Matt had to do is he had to go back and create more things so that the holes were smaller so that it met the building code.
Okay.
If you could do a crossbuck rail if it was less than 30 inches above the grade, that's the rule. Let's see, he's above the 30 inches, so it has to meet a code so that like a kid couldn't crawl through it. That's the problem.
Put an arm and a leg.
Knowing it,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of a stupid law, because you walk around, fall down the stairs.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm gonna take you up to the State House.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yes. Less video.
We
Okay.
have rules.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so Diane, you had made the motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to approve the application as submitted. Don't worry.
Aye.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry, they need to get you.
Okay, 4 Harbor Terrace.
Sounds so nice, Harbor Terrace.
Which one is that?
Mr. Chair, I had, I have, this is, which one is it?
Harbor Terrace.
It's right behind, actually, Marine Home Center. So if you drive into Marine Home Center,
All those 4 houses.
That's where
It's
Steve's
like right-
dad lives.
yeah, so Steve's dad's kind of on the right, and this is actually Steve's house.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
And it's a unique one. The house, I believe, was somewhere late 70s, 80s. It was done by an architect that I've seen before. I'm aware of him. I think his last name is Howard. Anyways, he does some really interesting work, but the house is pretty quirky. Ironically, yeah, it was designed this way though, and it was. And in the inside, there's a lot of really clever details. It's got a lot of exposed framing. For example, all of the first floor ceiling has wooden panels that you can pick up and pop out, so if you need to access any of the mechanicals. There's a lot of really creative ideas. When you look at the house at first glance, it's like, oh boy, like it just kept going. And somebody just got carried away.
Even second glance.
Second, third,
Maybe I'll give it a third try.
give it a third, give it a third try.
It keeps,
The beauty of this home is on
His
the
last name is
inside.
Howard.
there it is.
You've seen, he actually did, I know a little bit about him because he did up by the airport that development that's got the common green. There's all those duplexes. Yeah, he's a brilliant guy. I think he went to one of the Ivy Leagues for architecture, huh?
That just taints people.
I know, what, that place?
No,
Oh.
I,
Yeah, right? I know. But anyways, I've seen some of his work and he's really interesting.
what's his name?
I think his last name is Howard. I'll find out, but it's
Howard.
something Howard, I believe it. His name is. A lot of his drawings are done by hand.
These houses are done by.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a handful of his work, and it's just, he's very thoughtful, and he's not afraid to obviously do something that's kind of awkward and weird, but the house itself works really well, and it's really interesting. Anyways, I'm just trying to give you some background on it,
it is
about why
an
it's so
anomaly.
weird. And so, we're we're looking to add
Wait a
some,
second.
yeah,
It's the garage door.
You don't mean
there.
Fraker, do you?
no,
No.
no.
Okay, because there was a Howard Fraker, but he died. But the brother is an architect.
I don't know, maybe, I should, I'll find out. That's possible.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt, thank you for all that background.
Sure.
It looks like what you're doing,
We're looking to add 2 dormers
Yeah.
and remove a window. And one of the things that just transpired just before I got here was a request by the owner to change the window size of the dormer for a number of reasons.
And
It's
it's
a
a
lower
bigger hook.
plate height. Actually, it's the dormer that's shown on the.
Over the garage door?
No, the one over that's visible in the south elevation, the one that's like directly on the same plane as the front door. And they were looking to do a larger window. There's a number of reasons. The framing is designed in a way.
so what are you gonna do, reduce the roof pitch? Because right now it's kind of right in.
Yeah, it's right there. The only difference is, I hate to do this to you. You can review it the way it's presented, but
Well, while Matt's looking for that, I mean, in terms of the overarching thing, we are looking at this in the context of all the metal marine home center storage buildings.
yeah, yeah.
Who's Steve? Steve Hollister? He used to work with Jamie Feely. He has really dark, almost black hair. Nice guy.
Great guy.
Younger.
this.
Super nice guy.
and this,
Yeah.
and that door.
This is the brown.
Oh, I see.
So it's, the windows, bigger there.
Is that the ones
He's
that are
showing you
bigger?
this side.
Can
Yeah.
you make them
So you're
bigger in
seeing
the
this
one
on
over the
the windows,
garage
you're not
too?
seeing the-
I
Well,
could,
you know what you did, buddy?
You know what I mean?
what's that?
You have a straight
These
line.
have changed too. If you look at,
If you look at this straight on.
Yeah, and which is better?
look at that, Matt.
Yeah.
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 So.
They're the same.
This looks weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
And then
elevation.
there was a third door.
So you're seeing the.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
It's just two.
No, no,
It's
no.
like short.
You're right.
Oh,
So
yeah,
this is the
right.
side view. So you're making the dormer, you're making the windows in both of the dormers larger.
I like that.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do
it's
too.
much
It's a
more
garage door.
typical, even though this building is
This
atypical.
one goes this way.
Yeah, that's the only change.
So make that exhibit
If you were to
A.
see the whole,
The full set.
does that make sense?
Matt, where it says replace existing roof trim where clouded, are you gonna replace it?
I suggested that was adding flying lakes on the street side, just to, right now they're flush, and I wanted to just
Yeah,
have them
fine.
fly a little bit, because I thought it had a little bit more character.
He's gonna be chipping away at this over time. We talked about adding a covering over the front door.
Make exhibit A on that.
Oh, I see.
So, we just thought that it would add a little bit more character to the
Yeah.
building.
Okay. Where are we on this one,
I
folks?
would motion to approve her the exhibit A that Matt introduced at the meeting.
Okay. Any further discussion on this before I entertain Val's motion to approve?
No,
Everybody
it's for the
okay?
two dormers.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion to approve as submitted.
No.
We have a motion to approve as per Exhibit A.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Aye.
very good. Now we're on to 79 Orange.
How are you doing, tired?
A little bit, yeah.
But it's the weather, actually. Did that do that
Yeah,
to you?
I don't know, I got up at 3, couldn't get back to sleep.
Me too.
I got up at 3 too. I went back to sleep though.
Weird.
It's those vibes coming up from Washington DC.
Yeah. I had some
What
beach
else
foam,
going on?
beach foam jelly and went right back to sleep.
Big changes.
Is that do it?
That's what I'm
Well,
What, a jelly?
Beach foam jelly.
No.
Well, that, or some cherry juice. Not straight.
Each one jelly with vodka.
Where you go?
Fifth of Jack.
No, then you want more.
that
You
would
want to go to
be,
the
that
after
would
hours
be
party.
cute.
Scotch does it for me.
Yeah, what's that?
So perfect.
Okay, so the
That would get me
subject
started.
property is right at the corner of Westover and Orange, is that right?
Yep, so, Mr. Chair, this is the building directly
Oh.
behind,
Oh.
it's currently Flock.
Oh, this-
Oh, yeah.
It's an existing garage, so it's kind of a unique structure. We have the comparative elevations for just review, so you can see the before and after. Probably the most visible elevation is the north elevation.
Is that the street elevation?
That's the street elevation. So this is an existing garage, and we're looking to convert it. The owner's
Oh,
looking
I
to
see, you're
convert it
getting
into
rid
a-
of the garage doors in favor of two windows.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's kind of a, isn't that a
And then
upgrade?
there's an addition on the back of the building, but again, I don't think that that's
Is
totally
it,
visible.
is it a CMU building?
Yeah, that wall is
Okay.
actually the existing condition,
Okay.
which is interesting.
All right.
We were
Um,
trying,
Hey,
Now-
Matt, can
Yes.
you move the windows just a little bit closer together or put trellis or something in between? It looks, as
Yeah.
Abby would say, walleye.
yeah, we could actually, I could probably cheat the windows together closer by 6 inches in both directions.
That would help.
And then I could put a trellis on there. if you
Because
wanted
there's
to.
no door or anything.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an anomaly.
It
It's
looks
been,
like the two windows dislike each other.
yeah. It's
But, folks, I do need to read some
Oh,
HSAB, so they need to get their day in court. Here we are. No historic info or photos, exclamation point, star, star.
Okay.
Any, I
Um,
mean CMU,
It's
so.
CMU,
it's-
that's what I'm
okay.
saying.
All right. North, windows too far apart. Okay. This faces street and needs to be addressed, pull them closer. Okay, so we got that. Because this faces street, it needs to read as the front of the structure from street, so need a door, even if not operable. That's HSAB. Okay, so let's continue with our discussion.
So if I could just talk about the design of it and some of the reasons why there's no door on that side. That's obviously a fairly busy street. And the way that it's laid out, and this is all a reflection of what the owners want, is it doesn't really, it's a small space to begin with. They're not looking to demolish the structure and build something new, which they could do by right. So they're trying to work with what they have. And so you can see just based on the program, the bathroom and the bedroom are kind of on the street side. To add a door, I guess.
Fair enough, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue. Let's, who started the conversation? about
Me,
the-
I
you?
just asked about the windows.
Okay.
but
You want to continue?
I don't think it's a bad idea. You could make up some kind of a batten door and,
Just apply it.
yeah.
Check
Sure.
out my office
Yeah.
on Old South Road.
Oh, yeah?
It's got a fake door.
Get out of here.
It does.
I just think that
Yeah.
would sort of,
Can I do this? Can I run that by the owner before I agree to it? Or, yeah.
Well, hold on.
I don't mind.
Before I want to go around the table.
Sure.
All right, I want you to hear from everybody before we make any decision.
Yeah.
So Diane, where are you on this?
I think, putting the back door would be a good thing to do. Is this right behind the
Block?
flock?
Yeah.
What used to
It's
be the
that little
bakery?
building right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Separated just a little bit from the flock, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
No, I have no other problem with it than that would keep them happy is to throw that door in.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Abby?
Is there a reason on this east elevation why that window can't be moved right under there? Or it's kind of just sticking out like at the corner there? Doesn't seem to make any sense.
Oh, I see. That's an eve overhang, I think.
Ironic, well, you can see that there's a property line that runs there, and it's a pure function of maintaining a 3-foot separation from the property line, so the window,
You can't have a window.
you can't have a window within 3 feet, so just where that property line clips it, that's what determines that window location,
Wow, that's crazy.
you know.
Well, are you saying that and is it just set back because that little?
I couldn't sheet it over by 6 inches to get it outside. What I'm understanding you're addressing is the fact that that window is not quite outside that flush
That's exactly
gable
what she said.
that you're suggesting. Could you just cheat it out a little bit
That's what
towards
she said.
the road? And the problem with that is that it would not be
Yes, towards the
compliant.
road.
Gotcha, okay. I don't, just, no, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I don't know if
John?
anybody will ever
Yes.
see it.
Yeah, no, I
South
don't think
elevation, the three windows are casements, and they're highly visible right from York Street. I think that would be double hung or
Or
hopper.
fixed.
Or fix,
Hopper.
Double hung. I could look at double hungs.
huh?
I could look at double hungs. I think they probably will open those, so
Yeah,
I can look at making those double hungs.
that is highly visible, so, thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, so it sounds like you want to get a check with your clients and see whether you, a couple of small revisions.
I'll hold for a vision.
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor of Diane's motion?
Aye.
16 orange.
Orange. A lot going on in orange.
Orange Street, yeah.
True plum.
That's for you.
Matt, you have a tendency to make these thick books of drawings.
Yeah, we like paper, trying to slowly eradicate.
You're pretty good at
trees.
wasting paper, but
Yeah,
the best paper
I'm going the other way,
waste
on
of
the
all
environmental
is
thing, okay?
Andrew Caution.
Yeah, just trying to use up as much
He'll,
paper.
he'll give us a stack of drawings like this for like a window change.
Charge by
So
the sheet.
before we get started, I will read HSAB just so we have it. Building is individually significant. Comments, incomplete application, historical information needed. Recommend view does not meet guidelines, not appropriate. Whoa. North elevation, need date of chimney. If it's allowed to move, it needs to be existing bricks reused, exclamation point. East elevation, need a window schedule. How old are windows, especially on the front of the house? South elevation, Dutch door not appropriate on this house, nor right up front, exclamation point. HSAB wants this back. Where are historic photos, Sanborn maps, etc.? It says down here, comment, shame on you, man.
Really?
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
He's like a new board member there.
Wow, they've gotten so feisty.
Yeah. This is a client we've worked with.
Which one is the HCC?
Okay.
He's got this interior designer.
I would just hold for more information.
Yeah, okay, I'll do
Oh.
that. Yeah.
And
I'll
a
do that.
view.
You get it, right?
Yeah.
We need to, because it's individually significant, we're gonna need a thorough, set of documents to review.
I think it looks very
Oh,
cute.
so if, well, you're not making any changes at the moment until we
No.
get that.
No.
So there's no point in sending it back to HSAB if they're just gonna be looking at the same thing, or, once you get the information.
Submit it to them.
Submit it to them, and then they can do a
Yes.
little bit of the pre-review on it, okay? So, let me think back.
What pictures are those that John has?
Just of the house.
Oh.
I'm looking for historic Sanborn.
Can I see the
historic
pictures
pictures.
just for,
Sure.
I'm just curious. Curious yellow.
But, would somebody like to make a motion?
I thought I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Could you say it again?
I don't remember what I said.
think
For
you
more
probably
information.
More information and a view.
And a view and
And referral back to HSAB once the information is complete.
right. Thank you.
Then back to us.
I had a comment
Oh,
before they voted.
we didn't
We're
vote
not
yet.
voting.
We're waiting on you.
How did you vote?
I said they're voting now.
No.
We're not
Hey,
voting.
John,
Don't start
your
that.
buddy's stirring the pot over there. Stirring the pot. So what was your comment, John?
I had one question on, where the hell was it here?
You would have voted and he would have been.
We're holding for more information.
What?
We're holding for more information because it's not complete.
Well, I might ask a question, it'll change the information before they brings it in.
Oh.
No? My question.
What's time?
Yeah,
in the scheme of things?
how was it? Trying to find it. Oh.
See, I know you can hear me.
Tuesday,
I knew you could hear me.
that single
You're
chair
always
over in the
faking
corner.
it. You're always faking it. He fakes it, then he can't hear us.
No,
Oh, no.
right. Where did I see these movies?
You okay?
Well,
You want some aspirin?
I see.
At the front of the house.
So that's right.
I was going to question the visibility of the east elevation, but that was because of the town-owned Indian trail that goes right along the hall of Union Street on the top of the hill. People don't know about the Indian trail, do they?
That's town-owned?
That's what I understand when I was a kid.
Along the whole stretch,
But anyway, that's all right, I'm going to hold it.
foot of orange, and before it drops
All right.
down to become Union, there's a whole trail that way.
Sorry about that. We'll get you some more info.
So everybody, the motion on the table is to hold for historical information, a view for those who would care to, and for this information, once it's obtained, to go back before Historic Structures Advisory Board. That's the motion. All those in favor?
Aye. Coming at you,
And
kiddo.
will that,
And
should I re-sign that up, or will you guys sign it up with HSAB? Exclamation point, exclamation point.
On the 16th of July, because it's on new business.
Okay.
sorry,
July.
No, it's kind of sensitive.
I know.
I'm like,
I shouldn't do that.
getting attacked on Facebook. Okay. Before the 16th? Yeah.
So we have two.
The group has said, not for me. They're, I think, in response.
No, is it town?
Okay.
Well, I'd like to look into the roads and rights away.
Bye, Matt.
We don't have to use that.
Bye, thank you.
Okay, now we're at Dave Kim, 2 apartment buildings. Hello there.
And it's between orange and Union.
I'm gonna move that over
I'll look at
It starts at Weymouth, and it goes down to Cobble.
Hi, how are you?
Stone Alley.
It's been a while since
Starts
we've
at Weymouth.
seen your
Well, no, she was in here fairly recently. I think you were
away.
G is fine. I'd also Mulberry probably is the better thing because those houses have been built up on. I'd like to hand out some site details.
Okay.
Mulberry going back down to. It's just
Yeah, that's, if you,
So Mulberry would be the start.
Yeah.
not telescoping?
Val might have broke it.
Yeah, Stephen, how do I take care of this leg?
I thought it was counterclockwise.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, but it slips.
stories, but these all read exactly the same.
So just don't touch it.
Yeah, don't touch it.
You'll be okay.
Okay.
You don't have to add it, man.
What do you want to share? I don't know.
I'm just tired.
Okay. Upside down.
This is what we do. That's gone up 20 cents per gallon for this summer.
Diane, oh, I still good. We've got sort of the whole thing. I was trying to orient.
Right, today we were gonna review, we presented the J and the G. Last time we presented these buildings.
Okay.
This is sort of like phase one.
Right.
Where's Old South Road?
Old South
Over there.
Road
Okay.
is,
So
Okay, gotcha.
these are the hip-proof structures.
Yeah.
right, minor buildings, that was one, and
So this is
two.
deep in the site. And which one are we doing today?
Today we're doing the J and the G.
Okay.
So, does everybody have that? Everybody? So the building the building that we are looking at right at the moment, I believe is the G building.
Correct. It's
And
the
so
pink-
Danya, could you just point to the G building once again? And is there more than one? Yes, there is.
Yes, there's a G, but it's relabeled everything with a unique letter because it was getting confusing.
Yeah.
It's a G.1, the next one.
The one we're reviewing now is G.1?
No, today is G.
Just G?
Yes, and then down the road, we'll.
Okay, so we're only reviewing one building?
Correct,
I mean,
just one building,
Okay,
one-
okay,
one
a
site.
standalone. Okay, thank you. Okay?
Archie, I looked at this ahead of time.
Good, thank
So,
you.
for me, globally, it's very much similar to all the other buildings we've been looking at, and what I would like to see in this development is a little bit more of a differential, like maybe a building that has a one-story piece, not just broken up by a gable, you know. I think when we look into this sea of buildings, we're just gonna see, even though they're broken up nicely, how you have it, everything is gonna read as two-story, which essentially it is. And I feel like we're doing ourselves a disservice by not asking for more additive massing somehow. At least once in a while.
Understood, and the G was originally approved to be a full two-story structure. This back portion was 2 stories, and I'm actually withdrawing that approval. And we are doing a 1-story portion on the back that you see from Ironwood. You don't really see, the front as much, you see it from Iris Place, but this particular design lended itself to do an additive shed on the back of it. I don't know if you've picked up on that yet.
Well, I mean, I see that, but what I'm trying to express, and I guess I've failed miserably along all the time we've looked at these, is that, you know, when we come driving into this and we look at this sea of buildings, essentially what we will feel and what we will see are these two-story masses. And I either need to see the buildings sort of together in sort of a rendering way, like we did with Tacoma driving down the street, or some things have to change a little. Like, I know you would lose a unit, but having a one-story element on one of these
On the front
would
too, not on the
mix it
back.
up so that it's not so, what's the word I'm trying to use? It's just a sea of two-story
Overdeveloped.
buildings, and yes, it's lovely that you've dropped this down a little bit, the eave and everything, but it's, for me, I'm afraid we're letting this go, and from here forward, I'd like to see a little bit more dissension from the
Variation in the
yeah.
massing. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
the I-1, the I-2s, we did change the massing to make them more of an L shape with a smaller gable. That was presented last time. Really, the hope that I was trying to come to terms with on the G, I also thought it was just too large.
Yeah.
And so that's why we were able to drop one of the floors just on the back of the building, just to show goodwill that we are working towards that. We do want to have scale. We want to have diversity. We don't want it to be homogeneous. That's absolutely true. But at this time, we do have an approved G, but I think this is a much more scaled down version of the former one that
So
we
you
had.
may have done yourself a service, but if you had brought what was approved compared to this, if this is a scaled down.
All it is if you were
Basically extruding this out
Yes, it
as
just-
two stories.
just deleting that.
But it still is,
Okay.
in the front, when you come into all these streets, it's all 2 stories. And it's in a cluster in the middle, which we're trying to have individual type things. I know you're under a construction square and all the rest of it, but we're not under so many units per area. We are not required to do that. And with everything that we have seen recently, it's all 2-story, nicely designed, but it does need to cut some of the stuff out so that it doesn't look like a development, in the middle of New Jersey, which is beginning to look like, even with vegetation and the other housing. It needs some
Maybe
other
a
thing.
model, even if it's a 3D
I would
thing,
think.
would help us, because the buildings interplay with each other would really help me.
How many of these,
Because it's not all 2-story, even though I know they're not real additive massings with the farmer's porches. We've added on the eyes facing ironwood and some of this other things. We did do the 2 stories, the renderings last go around when we had the buildings actually attached. Then we detached the buildings because we just had too long of ridge lines and et cetera. So we already went through that last year. Now we've detached the buildings. We've added farmers porches. So I think visually, you're right. We need to show you some 3D massing so you understand the scale of the whole, development as proposed so far. We don't have everything designed yet.
I think it would help.
Okay.
It would help me hugely.
Yeah.
how many of these have we passed? Can you point
So-
to the ones that have we actually
The
passed?
H, the I, the I.1, the I.2, the I, and formally the G as a full 2-story with no 1-story portion.
You know what would help me a lot? It would be,
Hold on one second, I want to make sure that we're going in sequence. So you finished,
Yeah.
right? Diane, were you finished with
Yeah,
your comments?
I would like to see something in that regard before I make any more comments, because I'd like to see how it works out, but I really think it needs, we sort of said this since the beginning, and Patty said then that, they weren't Henderson houses, but they were unit-type construction.
Right.
But it's getting to be an overage. It's a lot of buildings in a small space that are big.
Okay. That sums it up for now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Abby.
No, what would be helpful to me would be that the ones that we've already okayed, I don't know if you can do this, but, I'd like to see what they look like, sort of in a 3D, I don't know if we're saying the same thing, but,
That's exactly
just,
what she said.
okay, because
Like
it's,
in a group.
Right.
well, yeah, and also individually, what architecture is a G1 and what, or whatever those are. So that when we come to the new ones, we can, sort of vary it from those. Because I can't tell from looking just at those little silhouettes what that architecture is.
So even like maybe a chart, like here's what a G is small.
Yeah.
G, what is this?
Yeah, you don't have to do a whole sculpture.
And
Just a,
if you're driving along Ironwood Road and looking down at Iris Place with the two buildings, that 1.3 and the G, at some time as you're going down, it's because those are fairly close together, that they're going to look like one building. So this is what we need to get, is how separate they look, so it.
yeah, that's a good point too, like
Perspective.
how congested it is, because you can't,
Well, it's-
there's some.
The way it's designed is we want to keep as much green space between the
Yeah.
buildings as possible. We want to keep them a little closer together. If you spread them out too much, you have nothing green left. So, yeah, well, we're trying to maintain at least 20 feet. Sometimes it's a little bit less, but 20 feet is 20 feet. I mean, it's better than right next to each other.
Yeah.
So we can do that. We can accommodate you with that.
Yeah, it's for, can I just keep,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have any concern about this design per se, but I don't know how it fits into the whole, thing, so this, it's perfectly nice design, I just don't know how it fits in the whole scheme of things, so that would really help me if we were to get some sort of perspective on that. So I don't
A
really have-
literal perspective.
Yeah, a literal perspective.
So, refresh my memory, have you done perspective views sort of
We did for,
collections of buildings?
we did for when these buildings were attached. I don't know if you remember, but there used to be like an H attached to an E. And it was
Yeah.
called a C.
Right.
You know, it was an attached version. We haven't done rendering since we detached them, it was just a
So,
time constraint.
It sounds like, well, I wanna get John. Hey, John, before I say anything, you wanna,
Okay.
are you ready to,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I am. My question is this. All right, on the A1, you have the front door, and you have, under the windows, and you got 4 squares.
Yes, that's an error, I
I'm sorry?
apologize. That's an error, yes, that's.
It's an error.
Yes, it should
You're
be.
gonna keep it solid.
It's gonna be, it's gonna be per the,
Right, I just wanna make sure that.
yeah,
No.
this is the wrong door, I
Yeah.
apologize. It should have one, panel below and then 3, windows above.
Now, where is Dave Kim on this map?
Dave Kim is not on this map.
Okay,
Oh,
why is
I
he-
apologize, it's here. But this building is the G is actually off of, on the corner of Iris and Orchid.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can I show you Dave Kim? It's, Dave Kim is right. It's right here. This is Dave Kim.
All right,
Okay, this is G.
we're
G
okay.
building.
We're over here. The
These
question
are
is
on
this.
map streets.
This is building G.
Correct.
Why is the application saying that it's on Dave Kim Lane?
Right there.
Oh,
That's why I couldn't find it.
yeah, yeah, cause this is all one subdivision.
That's right, I know. But if it says Dave Kim, I had a hell of a time finding it.
Well, yeah, the funny thing is, the next application that we're about to review is also labeled the same address. It's labeled 20 Davekin, which is all of those things in there are all 20
We were
Davekin
supposed
at the
to get-
moment.
Yeah, we were gonna get,
We was gonna get new, aren't we gonna have-
Addresses, yeah, they're almost ready.
Yeah.
They're working with the assessor's office to get every lot labeled uniquely.
We do some other way of identification, because every time you come in, I've got to ask these questions for all this stuff. It should be self-explanatory, all right?
Right.
If they come in again, I'm gonna see to it that, if they come in and mixed up, I'm gonna see to it that they help.
Well, so, John, they've been working on, it's because it's a new subdivision, the assessor's office has to issue something to them to show the different parcels.
Yeah, well, I have no problem, I just wanna know why, there's
Yeah,
probably
we're-
confusion to other people too.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
We're very
When it
eager
gets
to
planning
get
board,
that.
I know
I
that.
bet you are.
Anyway,
Um,
I have another question. The height. This is,
30 feet to the big ridge, 28 to the secondary
it
ridge.
says 29 feet to the ridge. Over here,
Well, it's 30 to the main ridge, John.
what is this 3'2" measurement here? On the roof, above the roof ridge?
Okay, let's see, you're on A4.
I can explain that. Hey, John, that 3'2" is the difference in height between the main ridge and the ridge that's lower. See how the ridges on either side are lower? So that's showing that there's 3'2" is the space between those two lower
But
ridges.
if you look at it, this corner right there is the top of the roof,
That's right.
29 foot,
Uh,
29 foot even.
29, yeah, correct. And then right where your finger is, that ridge is 30 feet high. So there's a 1 foot difference.
This is a roof behind this one?
Yeah.
Beyond, right.
Okay, I didn't know there was that. The other question I had was, you need better measurements too, for the height and the length and this.
In the streetscape, okay.
I thought it was worse. But, I was supposed here, coming in.
just looking to see if there's any more.
Where is Irish first?
I'll swing down to that.
This is our building, this is Irish Place.
G is the building, right?
G is the building.
How many Gs are there? Just one?
Just,
I mean, there's one G.
I'm sorry?
One G.
There's a G over here.
It's gonna be a very similar, if not,
going to be a little different, John.
they have a different porch or entry or window pattern.
We're doing this one now.
Correct. That's a standalone building.
Thank you.
Okay, so, Dinah, it sounds like we're looking for a few things. One is obviously the perspective views from various places that would show how this building fits in relation to other buildings. That's one thing. And the second is to try and get some more reduced massing somehow that would ground the buildings. Personally, I would add to that, thanks for this. But you could also have some more porches and so forth that took away from some of the two-story flat mass.
That's
It's
a great
just a
idea.
suggestion.
What's up in the attic area? Is that
Mechanical.
mechanicals? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think,
It's not usable.
you don't have any basements under here.
No.
Yeah, it's slab on grade, so basically all their mechanicals are up there.
Upstairs.
We'll be doing mechanical pads as well around the site.
Oh,
It's just unoccupied space.
Yeah.
We did do a streetscape so that you have an idea how they look next to each other, even though they're not, it's not the 3D, but you did ask us to show you this from last week. I mean,
that's
I'm sorry,
helpful if you can give some dimension to
2
that in
weeks
terms
ago.
of.
Right.
And some figures and trees, something to make it look.
Well,
a little
not if
more
they're not
human.
gonna be there.
No, I mean, just for scale, because it's hard to,
Banana bees.
No, human
Do you mean the people or the trees?
We can do a person to see
Well,
how six
Trees, fences, all that stuff, if it's not gonna be there,
No, I think human, just human,
A human
being.
scale, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, but you wanted a step further than this, you wanted it
Yeah.
actually in 3D.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
and-
be terrific,
and
with the
sort
other
of-
buildings around it in the same context.
Are there any architectural comments on the G beside the fact that you want to see all
Well,
the?
no, so my point is, if we have this cluster, not just the little cluster, I wanna see it
We don't,
in,
we don't have it designed yet, though.
well, wherever the buildings are already approved.
Okay,
It helps us to understand what's next to what. Because coming in individually with weeks in between, it's hard to remember what was an I, what was an I.3.
Right.
Which is usually something like a porch is on one side, not on the other side, and maybe it's perfectly fine the way it is, but I can't speak to that because I'm having trouble visualizing. Even little cardboard models next to each other, you know,
I would love that.
help. It doesn't have to be defined with all the windows and doors and everything.
The
but just
danger in those cardboard models, it always makes everything look so cute.
Cute, yeah.
even
Well,
if
you
the
know what I
box
mean.
looks good and.
Yeah,
If you were
yeah,
to do
yeah.
a perspective, from what point would be
Well, I think
best
where you're
for
gonna
us
see
to see
it,
it?
you know, some are,
Yeah, come
some are
in.
like this,
Ch-
like this,
Val,
Yeah.
what,
maybe like this.
yeah,
I mean, once we build the model,
Yeah.
I think it
They did them all, we saw it.
yeah,
might be
so,
easy to get more than one perspective.
Yeah.
Nothing's easy, but you know what I'm
Well,
saying.
if you're doing a physical model, you would just turn it around.
Like, right, if,
these are the ones that, this is the cluster that's finished, that we've okayed?
yeah, well, not, I'm changing the one out that we've okayed for G with the one-story portion. Just because
So
I
would
do think
keep
it will make a
that as
difference.
what you put in the model, because that's
Okay.
better.
Yeah, I would think coming down,
Iron wood, right?
insert
Yeah.
that.
Do you
Or
remember when
that.
Tacoma came in and they had, you know, they'd look down the street and you'd see the buildings that are existing, and you could
You
zoom a
mean the video thing?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that, but
No, I'm just saying, but they did it in video form, but there's a lot of different ways you could render it.
Right.
But
As
we
long as
did
you're
get a
saying,
paper one that's.
yes, you
showed
do,
it.
correct.
So it was an aerial scale perspective.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
And a
that it
street
tells a
side.
story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you are doing a physical model, I think I just had a thought, like if you allowed for expansion so that as it built out, you could add
Right.
little pieces
We
onto
could do
it.
the whole master,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
with
Yeah,
the streets.
right.
Now, the physical model, is an option, we haven't built one in a while, it would be
Well,
fun.
but, okay, so that was just a suggestion on the table.
Right, right.
The one Tacoma, which is right over there, they did not do a physical model, but they did pretty extensive, like, computer-generated
Right.
perspective work, so.
I saw the video, right, it drove down the street,
Yeah,
and
it's pretty
was that
cool.
done at the end or
yeah,
during the
not that,
design?
I'm not suggesting that, but just to see the
No.
forms and how they relate to each other.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so you would accept either a physical model or a rendering as in 3D
Correct.
3D rendering, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the only thing I would suggest, because I'm gonna be sitting on some more of these, and if we do renderings, I'd like to have, is go ahead and develop a couple of, do a couple of aerial, maybe one from each end and one from the street, and then some street level ones.
Right,
The-
bird's eye,
Once you put them in and you start rendering them.
it's just gonna be SketchUp.
Yeah, it's
right?
easy enough to create
SketchUp,
different
exactly.
perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Right.
not more detailed than that, because then
Yeah.
it'll take a year.
Yeah,
No,
massing,
No,
massing.
no, but you know, like, so you have, they don't even have to have windows and doors.
Yeah.
You wanna see the, yeah,
Like,
the
the
scale,
hospital did this
it'll bring
model.
everything into perspective, basically.
Yeah, like accurate massing.
And this really helps.
Wait, do they have to do, have they done, do we know, soil testing
See
in all
how,
this area? I was.
Well,
hold on.
you have to soil test insofar as, depending on what the soil is, if it's sand, that's a good bearing surface for footings. If it's clay, they have to make much
really
larger
gonna
footings because
help.
it tends.
Yeah, well, that's the hospital, but.
So we're
these
to
just
change
boxes
the,
that
Why
are-
is it?
Like,
Wha-
So
vanilla
even
boxes
if,
almost.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
It
well,
just
that's,
shows when you're
That's
looking
their-
at
that's
it,
their
what
fault.
the
I
relationship
wondered
with
if
all
one is-
these different things
I mean,
really.
there's huge issues with
No, I,
that.
Then
I
I
love
can, then I
models.
can
it must
see
be.
Yeah.
it not be
But
such a
people
pain
just
in the
pour
ass.
Okay.
Grease on your water.
No, no,
will tell you
I-
that.
Well, they
Yeah,
should change
yeah.
cars up there.
What would be
Remember?
better, not that
Wow.
But, do we want to hold the next one if we're asking for the model? Do we want to take a look at it?
Well,
I like that idea too, like a.
Hey.
Well, and if this is how you do it on the computer, this is fine too.
You're the chairman, you're running the meeting.
yeah, so I want a motion on this one,
Well, we're gonna hold for the perspective, aren't we?
and
For
revisions.
something that would show us
Okay, so,
relationships of the buildings to each other.
Dinah, the next one, can you just point it out, because
The J,
if
yes,
we're gonna have the same issues,
this is the J, it's on the corner of, Ironwood and Honeysuckle.
okay, so now is it fair to say that that building would be like 29 feet and monolithic? Is that-
Yes.
Well, we did punch out the front and the back of the building.
Okay, but like it's got the same,
It
similar
has,
sort of
it has,
29
yeah,
foot ridge.
a middle gable, a higher ridge, a lower
Okay,
ridge.
so
farmer
it's a similar sort,
porches.
this is J, you said, right?
This is J, yeah.
J is gonna be a similar sort of building to what we just reviewed, so I think that we would ask for something similar for that, with you doing some,
And this is the J next to, when you look at J coming down Ironwood, that's the J next to the I.2. So the I.2 is more of an L-shaped with a smaller.
that's
gable.
I.2 there. Yeah,
Right-
see, I
right
think it
here.
would work to your benefit,
That's the
because
L.
if you have these sort of smaller masses
Yeah, there's-
that are breaking it up, it would be good to see all that in
Okay.
perspective. So I think that with this building, we can basically request the same information that we requested for the previous building.
I think it can work in her favor too,
I-
because when
I
we see that.
Totally agree, totally agree. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's a good idea.
All right, just to sort of move it along. So basically, we'll do the same thing on this one. Can I have a motion for the,
You didn't actually get a motion for the
Oh,
G.
oh, we
and vote,
didn't?
So you need to do a G and vote, and then a J and vote.
okay. So can I have a motion on the first one?
Motion to hold for some perspective
Views.
views for us to see the relationship of the structures together.
And I wouldn't rule
They're
out
so
doing some
unchanged.
revisions that might incorporate some more single-story massing.
That's my motion.
Except
Thank
for
you.
the sandals.
All those in favor, the sandals with the socks.
Sorry, sorry.
All those in favor of Val's motion?
I
Aye.
That's on G.
That's on G,
Yeah.
and now we're gonna do the same motion on I. Or is that a J?
J.
I'm sorry, J.
I thought it was G1.
Yes.
No, G1 is later. This is just plain old G.
Okay, the thing is, the application, all right,
Yeah.
I have to be technical because I
Yeah,
have
no,
trouble.
I appreciate
All
it.
right. Both applications,
Yes.
one is 336 and one is 337. And then you got on here, you only got 336, not 337. No, I had to put the markers there.
Oh, you mean on the map and parcel?
Now,
Yeah,
we're
okay.
missing them, and both of them,
Well,
this is only.
So the second one should be 337.
Right, and the other one is 337.
Thank you,
The one we're
John.
doing now.
Okay. So now this is a motion. Were you gonna make the motion?
I was just gonna say, I don't know why I said Army Barracks in my head, but Army Barracks came up when I'm thinking about this project. So I'm trying to think, what could you do to break this up? Like you mentioned porches, I'm just trying to get for some
Yeah.
feedback, you know, how are you gonna break this up so it doesn't look like an Army barrack? Because you just
It
don't.
won't, I
Yeah.
promise you.
Okay, all right, you know, maybe there are shutters or chimneys or porches or all the things that you
Right,
can put on a
porches
house
and-
to,
One-story
Humanizing the
elements.
elements.
I think one-story element.
I'll get it right on the motion.
One-story elements are, we're gonna have to just change the program a little, but we do have some one-story elements
that we're working on between, excuse me, on the future L-shaped buildings. Those links are all one-story features, so.
You can even draw it, just so they all.
Did you just do that?
I did.
Let me see.
Okay, thank you, Dinah. John,
Just for,
Dinah, you may want to listen to this.
let it go, Linda.
No, she was just showing her
I
something.
just wanted to.
What you said, this building that we're doing now is J.
Correct.
Okay. Now, there's a J1 over here, that is different?
That's a different
That's a
building.
different review. It's gonna have different porches and
We're
everything.
doing
John.
J1 here. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, did we get a motion on the second one, the J building yet?
I believe I could just repeat my motion for
I
that
think that was
as
the
well.
plan, yeah.
Aye.
Okay. Ditto.
So,
All those in favor of Val's dittoed motion?
yes,
Aye.
dilly
Okay.
dilly.
Thanks a lot, Dinah. I'll see you next
We'll
time.
hold the second one for
That's
revision.
perfect for that.
Exactly, and some renderings and so forth.
Thank
John.
you.
You're welcome. Thank
Okay,
you.
now, we're gonna take some pot shots at the Surfside Crossing.
No, I
No?
thought it was withdrawn.
What?
No.
With-
Nobody's gonna represent it?
No, this is an in-house thing.
Oh,
So, basically,
You wanna look at the house or the condos first? This is,
well, you know, if I made an opinion, okay, so this is a typical house, and there are quite a few of these, but I mean, these are, you know, relatively simple and so forth. Now, but then there are, the thing that's, I think, really a huge problem on this project are the big buildings, the ones with the gambrel roofs on.
may I start?
Yeah,
So
sure.
my comments were really global,
Yeah,
because I didn't want to get into each building per se.
yeah. Did we lose John?
no, I think you just.
I mean, physically, yes, but
Okay, because I'm just going to say something for everybody here. First of all,
these are going really fast.
I believe that everyone can sit on this, and everyone can vote, or not vote, but everyone can render opinions. Because this, unlike an application, this is not an official application to us. This is, our board is giving comments that will be presented at the ZBA hearing. And the ZBA is basically brokering this one.
Right.
Okay? So that means that as a board, we can feel free to all express our views on basically whatever. I would like to more or less keep it within the HCC purview, but I think that the idea is that we will draft a memo. I'll sign it that says here are the opinions from our board for the ZBA to use.
Should we go to that meeting?
Issue, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
It's
that
like
on
end of-
24th of July
Yeah, end of July.
at 4:30.
So John, we need to know.
downstairs?
So should we wait for John, or can we start?
We can start.
Okay.
I mean, yes, Kathy.
Did you want?
No.
Okay, well,
I have them.
condos and I have the single.
You know, I'm okay with this, honestly.
The condo one?
So I did a lot of looking at this stuff before the meeting, because John sent it to us to prepare our comments, so that
Correct.
I have to separate myself from being a Mid-Island person who deals with all of these developments. And now I'm just presenting my HDC stuff.
Okay.
All right, I'll just read it. Nantucket is both a National Historic District and a National Historic Landmark Historic District. As a result, it's one of the best preserved communities in terms of its architectural heritage. I'll give you this if you want it, Terry. The HDC Commission has worked very hard since its inception to make sure the integrity of the island remains intact. The intent of this commission is to help an applicant foster a design until it relates to its immediate surroundings and fits into a neighborhood it is within. Comments by board members are meant as part of a collaborative tool so that the design solution work for all involved at the end of the process. They are not criticism or meant to be an affront. I cite the master plan that was written or developed in 2009, section 2.1.3. To match existing development patterns, minimizing the creation of zoning nonconformities to the greatest extent possible. To analyze the character of existing development, including ground cover and building heights as part of zoning map changes. This overall development design does not have the appropriateness.
I tried to get him to quiet down.
Open it before I finish.
I was trying to get him to do it quietly, but he's using the knife.
The overall development is, this overall development design does not have the appropriateness or architectural style of the residential rural area it is within. Scale, massing, visual impact should be minimized. The large condo units should not be on the street. In addition to the individual structures being oversized for the area, when they are placed together, the impact visually is massive. The vast amount of parking in a concentrated area is not helping the effort. Placement of these buildings should be rearranged and dispersed throughout the smaller buildings, and as a result, the parking will be divided into smaller pockets, which will be more in keeping with the neighborhood. I cannot enter into a mutual partnership with this design as it is presented today. I'd like to see some 3D renderings and streetscapes and some hardscape plans that will realistically be implemented, such as fences and other hardscape items that we sometimes get presented and do not in fact actually appear. And then, I don't need to read the other page that I wrote.
You don't need to read it?
Well, it was just a quote from the growth policy study that was done in June 1980 by the Land Council. And it's just the most important tool in shaping Nantucket's future is the development of a plan for growth on the island. It's an attractive place to live. If it continues to be attractive, we must develop a plan to preserve the qualities that are important to all of us. The development plan must identify areas that are sensitive, environmental, aesthetic, and of historic importance. But it also should designate methods for protecting these interests. At the same time, the plan must provide a healthy economy and livelihood for our citizens without destroying what we love. The plan for development must be viable and politically acceptable and must meet the needs of our citizens. While experts can help with technical aspects, no expert can make decisions, blah, 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 we don't need that. Such a plan is important because it must be developed before events make our decisions for us and circumstances go beyond our control, forever changing the nature of the island. And that is my comment.
Fantastic.
Read into the minutes, and there is a physical
Love it.
copy.
Totally love it.
Can I
Thank
start?
you. Yeah.
No, okay. Because I'm over here now. I'm usually a number 5.
Oh, I always start with you.
You never start with
More
me.
than 50% of the
I don't have a
time.
lot to
Don't
say
complain.
because I'm-
You.
Well, I just want to say that I'm having a little deja vu about that one that's near the Quaker Cemetery where they got, just so upset about how it was chopped up into tiny little pieces.
Yeah.
That Vesper and
I forget the name of that.
no, not Red Mel. Well, that one too, but the one that
The one with the
Quaker-
topography.
the one that
Oh, no, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Quaker Cemetery.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I'm having a little deja vu with these.
Yeah.
So, just looking at it from here, it looks like, yes. Instead of making a pattern, like, why do these all have to be in like a row? Why do there have to be so many for starters, but why can't some be sort of
You mean varied from the streetscape?
varied from the street, thank you, and why does it have to be so congested? I think that was the problem that happened on Wynn, was everything was so, remember, we could barely put in a walk between the two houses?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Remember
so-
it well.
And then, I guess, this looks, talk about repetition, it looks like Pac-Man.
Oh, yeah, it looks like you basically just did a cookie cutter and
That's
right
all
down.
he did.
Yeah, so those are my just visual globals.
Thank you, Abby. Anybody else comments on this particular layout? Yes, Diane?
Well,
Okay, it's not limited to this.
okay,
But-
this is an area that goes from my Comet Road over to South Shore Road, where it is developed in low-cost, give or take, housing. This is
Affordable housing.
all only the quarter and that, and then the new one, Abrams Path, or whatever, and then this whole new part. I couldn't get an assessor's map in time to show the connection between going down Rugged Road, which is a development made by this person, between Rugged Road and Rugged Scott, or whatever he calls it. And I think that the overdevelopment of the mid-island, which has been designated from the master plan that says we shouldn't do this, that they should be broken up and put here and there. You shouldn't congregate them all to the amount of acreage, total acreage, that has been given within 1.5 miles of each other. This doesn't include going down. This is only a small part. I think that we have to take into consideration, as Abby brought up, this is no more like the area of going down South Shore Road than the Man in the Moon. The houses are all on 2-acre lots. They tried to get some of them down to 1 acre. I think a couple were, but the rest are at 2 acres. These houses, all those A houses, there's not any greenery. You're taking and making a city out of this. We are losing what we have strived so hard for, which is the historic feeling of Nantucket. This could be in any city in the United States, not a 14-mile island 30 miles out at sea. It is not what we should do to the middle of the island. We should not depreciate the middle of the island to create these. This is not what we are supposed to do as a historic commission. For the people who live further down the street, the safety to their children and the traffic, because there's only one way out. There's no side road to get out any other way. It is down Old South Road or South Shore Road and back out onto Surfside.
Right.
And those kids may walk to school because they're within 1 mile of the school, and the bus routes say they're supposed to walk. It makes danger for the kids. The cost of what it's going to cost to develop this area, put in water, sewer, schools, police, and firemen are paid by the residents of Nantucket, not the people who either built this to begin with, or the people who rent. It is done by the citizens, and this is not improving the citizens' land on one of the quietest, gentlest streets going down to the water. There is a beach at the end of this, of South Shore Road, which becomes in question. There's a children's school right next to this at Wero,
Yeah.
and it it needs to be considered. And I would like to know the cost of the units that are for supposedly for low-cost people, and how many there are, what is going to cost us to do this is worth what it's going to end up. We are never going to get, as was discussed hardly, to safe harbor. We are not. We're not big enough to get to the 10%.
Right.
So less than 10%, we have to work carefully. We cannot destroy, we can't make more land, we can't buy more towns. This is what we got. And it is our charge to see that it is what we are supposed to end up with.
Thank you,
So-
Diane. So now, just I want to clarify, when you started out, you had a document that showed the concentration of affordable housing in this one area.
Right.
And I think that we should enter that into the record, because everything that we have is in the minutes and
This is only-
in an audio.
This goes from the corner, low-cost housing over there, the Housing Authority, Abrams Park, and the new park. The only thing I can't figure out is
What's the little
what
thing in the middle
is
there?
the little thing. We have, but what I don't understand
It's an
is,
Indian burial ground.
no, the
Oh.
Indian Burial Ground is up on the, right on Surfside Road. We have granted
Oh, they have
in
to-
Abrams
they have a skeleton.
Path or Abrams, whatever, people to have fences because Linda told us it was backed up to land bank land, and I don't see any land bank land.
Well, so Diane, I want to get back to your
Yeah.
the point of that
That's-
document is basically, and you and I had a conversation previously about this, the fact that they seem to be concentrating all of the affordable housing all within like a 1 square mile area.
Right.
And so could we just enter that into the into the
Yes.
record? Thank you, Diane. Let's see, Stephen, anything on this or anything else?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to, first, I think a full-throated support for the Val's prepared statements
Yes.
and Abby's comments and Diane's. And I think it's probably important that the letter indicate that where we have unanimity. It's just a general comment. I think too, I do want to underscore that this is oversized with an impact that's visually massive and completely out of context in this area. And I believe that if the ZBA is going to grant the request, which is an ask of the applicant to waive review by the HDC, which I understand they don't have to grant, but if they are going to grant that, that they would consider, and I would urge them to consider, I think we would all urge them to consider approaching this the way we would as the HDC, with context underscoring all the decisions by the HDC in protecting the historic character and fabric of the island and National Historic Landmark, and then translating that into new developments, which really are new history. This will become part of what is the identity of Nantucket for decades and decades to come, perhaps centuries, depending on how well they build it. So with all that said, urging the ZBA, if they are to waive the requirement to be in front of the HDC, that they would require, consistent with what the HDC has required, and Val mentioned, but I want to make sure that it's there in this context, that they requested of the applicant a set of scaled elevations showing full street lengths of all structures relative to one another, a 3D scaled model, which will help perceptually, I believe, in their doing the HDC's work. It's difficult enough for us to do the work, and we do this many hours a week, every week, years in a row. So if they're going to take the mantle, I think it would be helpful for them to have those tools, and that the second tool, being a scaled 3D model, to show, much as the hospital used, I think that's a great, that would be, I would suggest this is an acceptable example. On this building specific, I have a couple comments, but one of the things that is not here that I believe should also be reviewed in detail by the applicants, and Dale mentioned hardscape, and fences and so on and so forth, is a full hardscape plan, soup to nuts, including lighting, street lighting, anything that has to do with community services such as mailboxes. The U.S. Post Service is not taking individual mailbox delivery, as I understand it, for over a decade now in these types of communities. So they have communal delivery. So where is that being housed and what will it look like? For the condos, any type of community trash receptacles or locations. If there's going to be, if they're going to be requiring NRTA bus stop, what is that going to look like? And those are just examples of some of the things that I believe should be brought into the hardscape kind of lexicon. Again, this is if the ZBA is going to take the mantle of the HDC in terms of the responsibility. The other thing with hardscape that's not really known and you can't discern by what's been presented unless you crunch some of the numbers, there are on average 4 bedrooms per home. There are, I think, 239 bedrooms, and it works out to the parking for the single-family dwellings is on average slightly more than 1/2 a car per bedroom. They've proposed 2-car parking. It's in my experience working with these and being someone who lives in this density, and has managed these communities specifically laid out like this, it's woefully under, the quantity is woefully undercalculated as has been proposed. And I believe,
Parking lot to bedroom, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Parking to bedroom?
yeah, parking
It's
to bedroom.
basically, it's 2 parking spaces for 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Is the calc.
And so, and the reason I bring that up is because with respect to the density and I believe density relates to the hardscape, and that would be something we don't at the HDC review parking on a number of bedroom basis, or even whether it's adequate for the home. But this is a brand new development, and I think that we would be kind of irresponsible if we were reviewing this, we would be considering, well, is that actually adequate? If you don't have it, is it going to be on the street? If it's on the street, we don't talk about it, but the streets are undersized for on-street parking. So what happens is, the question for me from the HDC perspective is, would the hardscape plan they turn in as currently laid out with parking be adequate? And I don't think it is. And I think we might be a little bit overreach there, but I think it's something that we would be responsible in asking.
Can I
Yeah,
just back
please,
you
go
up on that? Because we both live in the same area.
Yeah.
Because parking hasn't been considered very much in the past, I can tell you it changes the character of the street. Once people start parking on the street and across their front lawns because there are so many people living in a structure when there's that many bedrooms, it significantly impacts the area. And what used to be side-to-side ranch houses with large yards in the front now have become front-to-back long lots, which is a difference, but now also all the parking's on the street. And it looks awful. It's like urbanizing the area, and it is significant, so thank you.
Sure, and I think that's exactly, that states it, I think, well. It's the concept that in context, we're taking what is open field type, large lot, rural lots, where your topography, your fencing would follow the topography, primarily be split rail fence. You would have some board fence up near the homes. You might have some picket fence up near the homes, to this incredibly urbanized density where you're completely changing the view shed is completely altered. And I think that is something that the ZBA, the reason I think we all mention these things is these are things the ZBA, these are within the ZBA's power to bring up and utilize even if it's a tool as negotiation to cut the density in half.
Right.
So those are my comments.
Does anybody
you
else
will.
feel the condos should be
Well,
switched?
I'm gonna just say my stuff.
Okay,
Because it ties in with that.
okay.
John?
Has
Comments?
everybody else spoken?
Well,
I
I
do.
haven't, but, go
I'd
ahead.
like to hear what you said before I
Okay.
do.
So I totally agree with the idea that the condos should go in the back of this property, i.e. away from the road. Further, condos are grossly overscaled, for any of you who have looked at the drawings of those buildings. Grossly overscaled. Now, the other thing that's missing from this, and it kind of goes against the whole parking issue, is that I really think that there should be a vegetated buffer between
Absolutely.
South Shore Road and the development. And at the moment, there is zero. There's nothing. It's just like somebody's side yard abuts South Shore Road. So more green space, more buffer between the development and South Shore Road, and more parking all lead in one direction, which is there's too much built stuff on this site. There has to be less built stuff so that there's more room for green space, there's more room for buffer, and there's more room for parking.
Where do they have any parking for the individual units?
In front of the houses.
Yeah, there's
Did,
not shown on these.
No, they're not shown on the thing. You can't get between the houses to get to the back, so you,
Oh, it's not in the back.
Does we
No.
see this tiny little box right here?
no.
What are those? What are the
That's
teeny
the
weeny?
Yeah.
So
It's
you-
these kind of little.
it is like
Okay,
a city
comes in
then.
like
It's
this.
like,
Yeah.
This is green space and here's parking.
Oh, right,
Parking-
like right
parking-
smack in front of the
yeah.
house. Right
So
smack
that's
in front
gonna
of
look
every
like-
house.
Yeah, and then,
You
and
know,
these
you're
guys, they
parked.
have straight in parking, and this is for these guys, this is, I believe this is.
so is it not obvious that we have to scale down this? I mean, are they starting big, so we have to, are they doing that
Well,
opposite thing?
That's certainly been a tactic that many have used before, so.
Because it's just crying for it. And
Yeah.
I just want to say, the other day, 2 days ago, in the New York Times, there's a project that looks just like this for the new way people want to live, but on the, mainland and in various parts of
I mean, in America.
in America.
As John would say.
Right, in America. But the idea that you should look at it, I think it was 2 days ago, it was in the New York Times, it shows a picture just like this, but then it has,
But it has
I'm not
stuff
sure.
there, like a store.
did you see it?
and
Yeah, it has
fitness
a
and-
store, it has
So
a
you
whole
don't have all the
community.
parking required because it's a small community of itself.
Right, and they're happy that they came up with this plan to have this community inside, but they have all these things that a community would want.
Yeah, if you have the
So-
amenities all within, this is a slightly different
And put
story.
a big fence
Slightly
up,
different.
Mr. Trump's fence up so you don't have to look at it. But the service, so the services that they are requiring this town to come up with is frightening. I don't know if any of you noticed, I did because I have to live on a fairly tight budget, is the water bill at this time, starting June 1, went up 20 cents a gallon.
Really?
Yes, everybody's bill, you will see, why is your water bill so freaking high? It's because it's gone up from 60 to 80.
Son of a gun.
So that's just, with the people that we have here now, we have always been so proud of our water that we don't put all the crap in the water. It's about as basic as you could get. Where are we going to get enough water to supply this place, 167 units with at least 4 people in every unit, is just incredible. Where are you going to drag the water out, enlarge the water company The same with the electricity, they're already talking about putting a new third cable through.
On our dime.
On our money, absolutely right. The sewer,
Which failed this winter.
we've already blown that, and any money that we had to repair it is long gone. And the fire, they got to have enough fire trucks to manage if they got a fire. You look at those houses, if they got a fire and we had a wind, they'd be gone. It says in fighting at 40B that if its costs were extraordinary, that it could be denied or reduced. It says that, right, in the 40B up in the
That's
government.
good.
I have a message into a lawyer who sits on the governor's council, who used to be a lawyer here for the town. And these are specific things that one can use, and I hope the ZBA has the guts to do it. And I do think that they should let us as a unit talk.
Well,
Well, we're certainly as individuals allowed to
Right.
be there and voice our opinion. Thank you, Diane. I want to make sure we get to John because
I do have
I
to.
am running out of time.
Yeah, I have to leave at
Well,
3.
did you want, okay, did you want to say something else before?
No, I've got to go. I'm
Okay,
leaving
well, thank
tomorrow.
you.
So.
Thanks a lot. John,
Everybody spoke?
everyone has spoken.
At this, for the minutes, at this time, I have no comments.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, I think we have plenty has come out of this conversation that we can draft a nice letter to the ZBA with some bullet points and send that off to them before their meeting. Thank you all for reviewing. Any further discussion on this matter?
When they have the meeting on the 24th of July,
Yeah.
do we have to, should we post if a lot of us is going? Should we post it as a meeting?
You can, if you don't want to post it as a meeting, don't sit together.
That's all, we can speak from different,
And you're speaking only as a private
Right,
citizen.
yeah, we would all speak as private citizens. What we don't want to get into is the HDC board talking back and forth with the ZBA, because you may recall that what we'd have to do is post an open meeting for the HDC and the ZBA.
Right.
And that gets a little complicated. So, yeah, as individual citizens.
I didn't know whether we.
Okay,
when is the meeting?
24th.
24th of July, 4:30 downstairs.
I had to make a comment. I was on the first ZBA board.
Yeah.
It ain't like it is today.
Oh, I
It's a
bet.
mess today.
Everything has changed.
That, the planning board.
Yeah, it's all going to hell in a handbasket. So what I would like to get out of one of you is a motion to draft a memo to the ZBA that encapsulates this conversation.
So I make the motion to do that, and that you have permission to sign for all of us.
Thank you. All those in favor of Diane's motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
I need to run off.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there it is. Thank you, John. All those in favor of John's motion to adjourn?
Aye.
Thanks. Thank you all for coming out on a Thursday afternoon.
I hope you have a nice birthday.
Oh, thanks.
Take your hand of the
Where are you going for
and
dinner?
some of the other. Plus you got your own stuff you can control if you're in the real estate business, right?
That's why I try to keep you going during the meetings so I can get through them. Because I don't have time, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like you, I'm not tired. Yeah, time is money.
I know you get the wrong word, it says retired and retired.
Retired, no, you are.
You like me, you know?
You are.
Retired, that's what they call them. You want another one from the pocket?
No,
Raise consent. March on full.
316.
Okay, I got
oh my goodness.
Show Diane that picture.
Oh, I don't think I still have it.
Oh, I want to see it, I didn't see it.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Diane.
Oh, here it is.
Found it. Oh my.
Check out those sandals with socks.
Let me see.
Today was Rachel's
Thank you.
birthday, so I passed that on to everyone.
He looks
They,
like a
look, they don't look
hippie.
much changed. They look young and
First time I met Ray, I didn't like him much. And I don't remember why he annoyed me, but he annoyed me.
That's when he came out to the DPW.
but he's growing on you.
Do you need these two?
No, no, I got, all I need to do is list them, but you need to have them in your file, so.
And I believe he questioned something I told him.
Thank you so much, Diane.
That's not allowed. I don't see you, so that's why he annoyed me.
Where are you going?
Well, we don't have a meeting next week.
Steve,
Oh,
say hi to Lisa.
I will, don't forget, Wednesday, next week we have
So,
off.
I don't wanna
Wait,
let this lapse.
no,
you know?
no,
No
what
meeting.
we need to do is.
Yeah.
Wednesday, no meetings.
no meeting, look.
I don't know, didn't, it was something that, John Waffle brought up, I think.
What? There you go.
I don't remember, it was something that I think John Waffle.
Did the people get there?
Wait,
I left Anthony
I'm meeting now.
and
I'm gonna swing by
Linda
tomorrow and
there.
get the.
They're almost done. I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have Anthony. He's amazing. You know what's the best thing about him?
What?
You don't have to say, now do this, now do that.
No.
I said, this is what we need done, and he just does it, just one, you know, he did the bathrooms, the bathrooms are spotless. He wiped down all the windowsills, he just did everything.
What did Linda say?
Linda said the same thing. We haven't been able to do it without him. And you don't have to tell him, you don't have to say, now do this, now do that, now do this. He just knows and goes from one thing to the next.
How will I bring up the times on,
Just say, I think we got the times wrong on pay, because I paid you this time and then I already paid you that. Just say, he'll understand.
because he couldn't have gotten 21 hours of work done in 2 days.
No.
All right.
I wish I'd had him back when I was cleaning house. Although Jesse was always,
not yet, no.
Yes.
it's something about my little gay boys who work for me. I said, oh, you little gay boys, you do such a good job.
All right. Now, is it raining?
No, I just want to thank you.
No, thank you. I got one in my mouth that's very empty. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny.
Oh, is it raining?
No, not tomorrow,
Well,
but it might again.
what have you got planned right now?
Taking you home, or if you need to go somewhere, I don't have anything planned. Anthony's gonna finish up and go back to your house and wait for me, because I gotta drive him out.
Oh, all right.
But
Well, it's probably
he had
finished
to
by now.
finish, no, he had to finish vacuuming and washing the kitchen floor and washing the lights. And Linda, I'm sure will tell him to do something else.
And he's got, well, what I wondered was, it's Thursday. I was wondering what they had for dinner.
Bartlett's?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I think it's trying to, we can go.
I didn't want him sitting around because he's going to get, if it's raining, to carry that vacuum cleaner back.
No, I carried the vacuum.
Oh, all right.
It's in my car.
Oh, thank you.
I'm too old to clean houses anymore. I'm too old for this shit. I'm exhausted.
Well, you never know.
Look at that. Pick up your feet.
With my lot, hot somewhere.
Yeah. Right. Well, willingness to do anything.
Yes, I just wish I could afford you more, you know, but I
my great grandmother left any message.
Okay.